Hello, kids. It's the Matt Murphy Radio Show getting underway for another day on Supertalk 99.7 WTN. Pleased you've decided to join us on episode 484. Here we are. And here we go, this Thursday, January 4th, 2024. As you might expect, lots to do, lots to get into. Hope you're able to spend the full 3 hours with us. If not, whatever time you're able to give us, we're certainly appreciative of that. We've got 3 hours of what we hope to be compelling and invigorating talk radio excellence for the masses coming forward, and we'll make way to the Drive with Brian Wilson once we're done. 615-737-9986, 615-737-WWT, and if you'd like to be a part of the show, you're invited to do that. I'm trying to fix this thing. I don't. Sit up straight! You be quiet. I'm trying to fix my equipment in here. My bad. All right, so we've got 99.7 FM on the radio dial. You can listen that way. You can also join us on internet streaming. We invite you and implore you to download us somewhere on a mobile device of your choosing and take us wherever you go, whether it be on your many adventures, whether you're out and about, maybe you're at the store, you're doing a little bit of shopping, put the earbuds in, you can continue to listen. You can take us into the bathroom with you if you want. I mean, I don't need to know all about that, but you can do it by downloading our internet stream at a streaming platform of your choosing. Just type in Supertalk 99.7 WTN. Then there's the Supertalk TV side of things, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch. Typically, those things are up and running. And hopefully they are today. Episode 484. Bell K likes to entitle them. He doesn't like to be on the TV. That's why we call him Headless Bell. But he does title our episodes. And today's episode, 484, is called
Matt Murphy. Pretty sure he killed Epstein. The Libertarian Lunch, noon to 3. Island Cocktails.
Supertalk 99.7 WTN?
Mm-hmm.
No? Is that it? Yeah. I'm still fighting with this thing. I'm fighting. Sit up straight! Well, everybody does it differently, and I think because of that, it creates, I don't know.
I love how you're just glossing over the fact that I just accused you of killing Jeffrey Epstein. And
I would have loved to have been the one that killed Jeffrey Epstein. I would have taken care of that. I would
Show me the evidence that you didn't.
I would take the rap.
Well, Show me the evidence that you didn't.
There is no evidence.
Yeah, exactly.
That was the whole point. You gotta clean up after yourself, for goodness sake. Come on. Yes, the list is out, and I have some thoughts on the list. The list. Hot damn the list. The list means nothing except to confirm that which we already know to be true, and that is there is a trove of information out there with regard to individual associations with Jeffrey Epstein that would indicate that individuals that are still free to walk the United States of America or the planet Earth, that these individuals have been engaged in potentially pedophilic activity and that there is no comeuppance against them thus far. I want to see, and I posted as much on social media. By the way, you're invited to follow me on the socials. You can find me at Matt Murphy Show. I'm Matt Murphy on Facebook, Matt Murphy Show also on Facebook. I'm full on the personal page, and so go over to the show page. You get mostly the same thing on both. But if you want to find me active, you can find me on the X machine at Matt Murphy Show, at Matt Murphy Show. And it says right there in my bio that I've been known to cuss. I try to let folks know up front.
For gosh sake, watch your language.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. What is that, by the way? I've been meaning to ask you that for 2 years.
That is Tony Stark admonishing Thor to not curse.
Okay, so that's Robert Downey Jr.?
Yeah.
Do it again.
For gosh sake, watch your language.
Okay, I hear it now. I've never heard Robert Downey Jr. before, but I hear it now. I'm glad I asked. Okay. I try to watch my language on the radio because, legalities and all of that. Plus, I think it's a common courtesy. If you don't know what you're getting, you get into the car, you got your kids in the car, and then I start spouting off some curses. Although I am known to throw one or two out. I'll throw a H-bomb out or a D-bomb out, but I try to limit that. But right there on my Twitter page, it says, my bio, I'll read my bio to you. Lawnmower repair and secondhand books, been known to cuss, consumed 12 to 3 daily on radio and television. And I consider YouTube to be, I guess, TV, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch. And I said this on social media earlier, and I'll repeat it to you. This is where I'm at on this, and this is what I have to say about it. What are you doing in there?
Forgetting to close my mic.
I figured. I hear the paper shuffling.
Sorry.
Belkay's a paper pusher. Regarding the Epstein list, this is my area of concern. I'm not out to bust skulls. I'm not out to score political points. I'm not out to say, yeah, but. I'm not out to, oh, Clinton, but Trump, but Clinton, and a lot of that's going on. Regarding the Epstein list, I'm concerned about charging, prosecuting, and convicting pedophiles. I'm concerned about pedophilic behavior that happened during the life of Jeffrey Epstein, that happened as a result of Jeffrey Epstein. If we discover that Jeffrey Epstein was blackmailing our political figures in America or blackmailing millionaires and billionaires in the United States of America, that is a bonus. But my concern is simple. Where are the investigations and criminal charges against Epstein associates and friends, regardless of their political affiliation or their fame? Where's the justice for those children who were abused? Where's the active criminal investigation? Where's the evidence of the active criminal investigation? Does this release of these names, which I have no problem with, by the way, bring us any closer to criminal conviction? Does it bring us any closer to criminal prosecution? Does it bring the public any closer to learning the truth about what happened, with whom, and how much? If not, then what the bleep are we even doing? And I didn't bleep it. And yeah, it's the word you think it is. I want justice for children. I want justice for children. I don't care where that leads me. And I don't take anything for granted. I don't take anything for granted when it comes to who might be involved in any of this. And I think the process of attempting to score political points, and I'm not talking about my brethren in talk radio, I'm not. I'm talking about all of it. Bill Clinton is doing this and saying that. Yeah, but Trump. Trump is doing this and saying that. Yeah, but Clinton. There are differences, obviously, and I can point them out to you. Does that bring us closer to criminal prosecution of pedophiles? There is nothing more disgusting on planet Earth, and I think I might include murderers in this remark. There's nothing more disgusting on planet Earth than someone who would soil the innocence of a child through abuse, sexual or otherwise. And I don't care what you call yourself after that. Republican, Democrat, conservative, liberal, I don't care how much money you have in the bank after that. I want to know the truth. And whatever impediment is in front of me in getting into the truth, I want to destroy that obstacle and get to the truth. I frankly feel that way about most everything we talk about on the radio on a daily basis between noon and 3. It is a matter of defending your voice and getting to the truth. And I've been struggling with this subject for several days, and I couldn't figure out why. And I figured it out this morning. Because none of us gets it. None of this gets us closer. It's a week-long story that will go away if we let it. I want justice for those abused. And justice has been delayed and denied for years. I was right there with everyone else. You know, Epstein didn't kill himself, the whole bit. It was a big joke, wasn't it? It's all a big joke with regard to the justice system and the FBI and our federal bureaucracy and the two-tier level of justice that we see in America today based on, you know, there was a time when American justice was black and white. I'm sad to say that, but it's true. That if you were a person of color in the United States of America, maybe even in the state of Tennessee in the 1940s, you probably didn't get the same type of justice that a white person got. I'm sad to say it, but it is true. That system of justice has long been replaced, and rightly so, but it was not replaced with an appropriate one-tier system. Now it's all about green. Green. And if you don't believe me, then let's you and I get in an automobile, find a golf course somewhere, go find O.J. Simpson and ask him about that. And I don't know how this gets us closer. Maybe it will. Maybe there's something that I'm not seeing. But what I do see is a lot of politicalization of this information and no furtherance of an effort to get to the truth, because there are too many layers of bureaucracy keeping us away from it. And there's too much money involved in that bureaucracy to prevent individuals in positions of power from coming clean with what they know regarding this issue. Jeffrey Epstein was an incredibly powerful individual. He met a lot of people. Some of those people that he met were not pedophiles. Some of those people that he met were. I want to know who's who. This list does not tell me that. These names do not tell me that. But I want to know. And what I do see is a lot of cherry picking with regard to the reaction to all of this. I do not believe, based on my digging through evidence, that Donald Trump had anything to do with Jeffrey Epstein at the height of his pedophile island, because Donald Trump, he got the lowdown on Epstein back in the 1990s. But that doesn't mean that I dismiss his association with Jeffrey Epstein. Of course I want to know the truth. And I think you do too. So I don't know what we're doing with the story, except it's a story that some have had interest in. I believe that many of us, and I don't know, maybe early on I would count myself in this number, I'm not immune from falling into this trap, so I would include myself among you when I say this, that we were hoping for something we were never going to get. We were hoping for truth and answers. My analysis of this story is it brings us no closer to truth and answers. And sadly, I fear it will be gone like a fart in the wind as soon as the next big thing comes up. And that's my take on that. That's all I have to say about it. I want the truth. We're learning a few things. We're nipping around the edges. I mean, Michael Jackson, what? I mean, come on. I don't care about the dead people. The dead people are dead. And I believe God is getting his justice for those folks if they, in fact, engaged in the type of activity that I believe they engaged in. I believe that Michael Jackson engaged in pedophilic activity. I'm allowed to believe that. I don't need a court conviction to believe that. So there's that. 615-737-9986, 615-737-WWTN. Coming up at 12:35 today, Senator Jack Johnson, who also happens to be the Senate Majority Leader in the General Assembly, will be with us in studio to talk about the upcoming General Assembly and what we can expect. We saw that state capitals locked down over the last week over threats made against said state capitals. Hopefully, Tennessee was not one of them. We'll find out from Jack. I will also talk with him about education and among a number of other issues that the General Assembly is expected to take up this session. At 1:35 this afternoon, Dr. Carol Swain will join us. Dr. Swain obviously was one of the individuals who had her intellectual property stolen from her at the hands of Claudine Gay, the now resigned and disgraced Claudine Gay, who continues to be employed by Harvard and continues to enjoy her $900,000 a year salary, does Claudine Gay. We'll get Dr. Swain's take on all of this coming up at 1:35 this afternoon. Obviously, your telephone calls are always appreciated. Your conversations are valued by me, and I love turning a monologue into a dialogue. Dial it up, 615-737-9986, 615-737-WWTN. You can also utilize the super text line to communicate with us in that fashion as well. Border security is top of mind, obviously. What with? the visit yesterday, 60-plus individuals. We talked to one of them, Congressman Gary Palmer. You heard from another, Congressman Mark Green, on the drive with Brian Wilson yesterday. We'll reflect on what was learned from that trip and what, if anything, it will mean for impeachment proceedings against the one and only Alejandro Mayorkas, who I don't think will be impeached, sadly. Perhaps he should be. If the Biden administration had any shame, and they don't, they would remove him. If they had any inclination to stop the flood of illegal activity coming across the southern border, they would have already relieved him of his duties. They don't, so they won't. And I don't think that the Republicans have the cojones to do anything about it.
If he's impeached, is it like a presidential impeachment where there'd be a trial in the Senate?
Yes.
So nothing's going to happen.
No. I mean, even if they impeach him, I don't think they have the votes to impeach him. I think that that is largely considered to be a matter left up to the President of the United States of America and the people.
Do you by any chance remember James Watt?
James Watt.
Reagan's energy secretary?
You remember him because his last name was Watt, don't you?
No, I remember him because he was such an idiot and would say the dumbest things, and that got him fired. Just saying things like, we have a diverse group, a Jew, a cripple, and a black.
What?
He was talking about a panel that they had at the Department of Energy, and he said, we've got a Jew, we got a cripple, and we got a black. Oh. And that was like the straw that broke the camel's back. Just him saying dumb things like that.
Even in the 1980s, that'll get you fired.
Yeah, it got him fired. And Mayorkas is still drawing a check.
While the illegal aliens flood across the southern border. Oh, by the way, I almost forgot about one of our special guests coming up at 2:35 this afternoon, the one and only redheaded stranger. She'll give us an update on her knee.
You want to get high? I erased that message. I regret doing that now.
Oh, you erased her message?
Yeah.
Her voicemail? Yeah. I wanted to play it to her.
I know. I forgot.
Oh, no. I can't believe that's blackmailable information there.
After Pamela got out of surgery, she called me and left a message talking about how high on painkillers she was.
Hey, Belle.
You want to get high?
Let's go. I want to get high. I'm high. That's my Pamela Fur. That's my Pamela Fur impersonation. Pamela will be with us at 2:35 for a specific purpose. In addition to being a part of the Super Talk 99.7 WTN family, we've not heard much from Pamela lately because she recently had knee replacement surgery. We'll find out how that went. She's also got an event through her association with AFP, Americans for Prosperity, at the state capitol this coming Tuesday, and she'll tell us all about that. That is at 2:35 this afternoon. You're on the phones all day long. I have a question for you, Belle.
Yes.
Do you have any knowledge of people in jail having the ability to email individuals? In other words, does anyone know if this is a thing? Because I'm getting inundated, and I have been for some time. I've been meaning to talk about this for a while. In my email inbox, I've not opened any of these. I've been inundated with messages with a fair amount of regularity from an individual by the name of Sean Braswell of Sumner County. The email comes from info@thejail.com. I have assumed that this is some sort of spam effort to get me to click on the email.
Well, it seems like if that was actually a related...
What is that noise?
It's
your phone?
People texting me.
Okay.
If that was actually a government organization, it would end with .gov because the government runs the jails.
Yeah, see, it feels like a scam to me, but I will say this, Sean Braswell has had some sort of dealings with the Sumner County Correctional System because I looked it up. I looked up Sean Braswell, Sumner County.
Maybe there's a third party that provides email services for the jail or something.
I don't know. I want to know because if this person is this invested in emailing the show, I mean, he emails us 2 or 3 times a week.
Right now, somebody on the super text line is writing in to tell us exactly what goes on.
I would hope so.
Outsiders can deposit money for inmates and they can email.
Well, if Sean Braswell is truly a listener to the show and he wants me to look at his emails, Sean, if you're currently incarcerated, God bless you, sir. Don't bend over for the soap. Number 2, tell someone, an outside party, a friend of yours, to tell us in some form or fashion that these are real, and I might open one, but I am so fearful of an internet virus, I'm not opening any of this. They have to have money to email you?
Yeah, there's one texter saying it's 25 cents an email.
Did you see Wendy's text?
Well, I knew she was in prison, so that didn't surprise me.
Well, yeah, I mean, based on some of the previous texts,
I'm
it's pretty
texting you
obvious.
from prison, so Wendy, just stop breaking the law.
But I'm getting email after email from this guy. Anyway, it's just an aside, but I'm curious if anybody has any thoughts on it. It's 12:24. When we return, we'll talk about the leftist and the reaction to the Claudine Gay resignation. It's been delicious. That's next on Super Talk. Super Talk 99.7 WTN, Matt Murphy, The Matt Murphy Show. We continue. We love it when you communicate with us via the super text line or on the phone line, 615-737-9986. We appreciate Senate Majority Leader Jack Johnson joining us as well, and we expect that he will be joining us coming up in just the next few minutes. Set that up a couple of days ago. I've not spoken to Jack today, but I bet he's here. Oh, yeah, he's at the front door. He said he's early. Hey, Bell, Jack's at the front door. He said he's early. Oh, Bell's on the phone. He can't listen to me right now. Craig is also on the phone in the borough. Hey, Craig, how are you?
Hey, Wayne, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Craig. What's on your mind?
Well, I'm going to let you know that inmates inside the jail have access to email, text, and video conference, as well as just regular telephone. So if you have the money on the books to pay for those calls, which are controlled by a third-party outfit. And by the way, those jails are not ran by the government. They are private corporations. So that's just the information I got for you on what's available to inmates.
Well, I'm glad that you called and let us know there, Craig. We appreciate that. I'm being told that by numerous different sources that there is email access available to inmates who are incarcerated in Sumner County or otherwise. Sean Braswell, this is the name of the person who's reportedly. This is the nature of the message that I get. It's from info@thejail.com. That's where the inmate message comes from. That's the email address where it comes from. info@thejail.com, which was suspicious to me from the beginning, but I thought the same thing that Craig just mentioned. I mean, if there's an ability to have a third party initiate some of this activity, I mean, the government's not going to do it for these inmates, but if they have money, perhaps a third party would. And it says, inmate message from Sean Braswell, Sumner County. I don't know what Sean has been convicted of doing, but I feel mildly guilty because if he's spending money emailing me, I'm not opening any of them. And I don't know that I will open any of them. Should I open them, Bell? Should I open this email from Sean Braswell in Sumner County?
Just don't click on any links.
Well, that's
don't
what I'm saying.
Don't open any files.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It says, all right, that new message, and this is what I get. I've probably gotten 20 of these in the last 2 months. Okay. 2 months, right? 20 of these. It says, new message. Inmate message from Sean Braswell, Sumner County. You have a message from Sean Braswell. Please click here to read it.
Is that the opened email?
Yeah, that's the email.
Yeah, don't click nothing.
See, and that's what I'm saying.
Ian, the IT guy, his head will explode.
Well, I understand that. But it's on my laptop though. Ooh,
you're on our system though.
I should do it on the desktop computer in here. So
even your laptop is through our Wi-Fi. So.
Well, I understand that, but I need to protect my property.
To hell with the stations.
Yeah, to hell with whatever. It does indicate that this email originated from outside of our organization. We've got that, that little thing.
We got that going for us, which is good, nice.
Yeah, which is nice. No, I don't plan on opening any of these emails, but I admit that curiosity is getting the better of me if these are actual emails from an inmate at the Sumner County Jail, or if this is just a fishing expedition. One way or the other, I probably will never know. It's 12:31 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hey, friends, it's Matt Murphy. It can be hard to find someone that you trust when it comes to large home repairs like your heater. And I'm imagining that if your heater's not operating properly, you're looking for someone that you believe you can trust. Well, I have that person. His name is Jeff Eddy of Vision Heating and Cooling. One of the first conversations that I had with Jeff, we sat down, we broke bread, we talked, and he was frustrated. Frankly, he was frustrated inside of his industry because he saw a lot of heating and air conditioning companies that were taking advantage of people in a way that was, it was costing them more money than it truly should. Well, if you need a second opinion or if you need someone that I believe you can trust, I know that Jeff Eddy is that guy. Efficient Heating and Cooling is that company. They're not the biggest. They're simply the best and most reputable. But they do have big service involved in their service calls. So if it's maintenance you need, they can do it. If you need replacement, they can do that as well, or just a second opinion. Call Jeff Eddy if your heater's not ready with Efficient Heating and Cooling. EfficientHVAC.net or call 615-784-4424. 784-4424. Efficient Heating and Cooling is a diamond contractor with Mitsubishi Electric and an elite pro partner with Rheem. I want them in your life. They need to be your heating and air conditioning company. Jeff Eddy and Efficient Heating and Cooling. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I'm excited. We've got a new General Assembly. I don't know if I should be excited or trepidatious or just maybe in an advisory capacity, I should admonish you guys to hold on to your wallets because the General Assembly is about to be back in session. It's coming up next week. We told you during the holidays, I said, before you know it, the 2024 election cycle will be all over us. And before that happens, the General Assembly will be all over us. Toward that end, we have scheduled visits with a couple of the leaders in both bodies of the General Assembly. Tomorrow, the Speaker of the House will be in studio with us right around 1:05 in the afternoon. Cameron Sexton will be here. And today, the Senate Majority Leader, Jack Johnson, is stopping by to talk about what we can anticipate out of the General Assembly. Jack, it is always good to speak with you. I hope you're well, sir.
Happy New Year. Good to be back with you. And might I remind you that Tennessee is the lowest tax state in the nation. So you can make your jokes about grabbing your wallet. But Republicans...
Wait a minute. Are you implying there's room for expansion?
No. We Republicans have been in control of the Tennessee General Assembly for 12 years now, and we have cut taxes every single year we've been in control. I don't think this year will be any different.
Hey, I would note, toward your toward what you just said, I was looking at the... have you seen this U-Haul list? I'm very proud of this.
Yes.
U-Haul released an annual, it's called the U-Haul Migration Trend Report for 2023. And do you see where Tennessee ranked? Do you remember?
I haven't seen it recently. I've seen it in the past, but where do we stand
Number
now?
5. Number 5, the 5th state in the country, the top 5 states in the country to experience the most movers using one-way U-Haul equipment. Obviously, it's not a scientific study because people use other things other than U-Haul, but it's a good
a lot of people do.
Good indicator. Number 1, Texas. All right, that's fine. We love our brothers and sisters over in Texas. Number 2, Florida. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Florida's big time. Number 3, North Carolina. That makes sense. Number 4, I'm a little surprised. South Carolina slipped in there ahead of Tennessee.
Interesting. Okay.
And then number 5, Tennessee. All states run by Republicans. All states with the Republican majorities in their various legislative bodies. So that bodes well for the Republican Party moving forward in 2024.
And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, you mentioned 5, and 3 of those 5, Tennessee included, do not have a state income tax. So that's probably driving some of people's...
I would think so, yes.
We used to make a joke. I've made the joke before. It'll cost you something like $1,500 to rent a small U-Haul trailer from California to Tennessee, and they'll pay you $500 if you'll take it back. So,
yeah, they ran out of U-Hauls.
Yeah, they need people to bring their U-Hauls back to California.
I was joking with somebody over the holiday. It was unrelated to this story about U-Haul, but I'm like, California has so much exodus. They broke a system they broke the economic model of U-Haul. Right? Their economic model was that on balance, you'll see as much coming back and going. And then California broke that model. Poor U-Haul.
Oh, man.
So what are you expecting? What is your world like right now as Senate Majority Leader? Are you doing pre-meetings and, kind of game planning the session?
Yeah, so a lot of conversations going on, and I am excited. I always look forward to the beginning of session. It's kind of like a big family reunion, get to see fellow members, get in that groove, if you will, that flow of the legislative process. It's very busy. It's very intense. We have a very finite legislative calendar that we're in session. It's not predetermined, but, we're in about 3 to 4 months out of the year, and then we go home, and that's a good way to run a government. So obviously bills are being filed, being drafted. Getting into the weeds a little bit, this will be the second session of the 113th General Assembly. Every General Assembly is 2 years and has 2 sessions. You may have special sessions like we had back last summer. But so this is the second session of the 113th General Assembly. Any bills that were filed last year that have not been acted upon are still viable. They're still alive, and so there's still a lot of bills out there for consideration. But you can also file new legislation. So members are having bills drafted, getting them filed, introduced into the system. House members are calling senators saying, hey, I've got a bill. Would you be willing to sponsor it in the Senate? Senators are calling House members asking if they'd be interested in sponsoring legislation. Our bill filing deadline will fall around the 1st of February, and that's when all bills have to be in the system. And then they get referred to committee, and we're off to the races.
What would you consider to be priority number 1 in this session?
Well, first and foremost, I always start with the budget. It's the most important thing we do. It's the only constitutional responsibility we have. Literally, we could convene our legislative session, pass a budget, and go home. and not pass a single other bill.
Can we do that? I mean, I guess there's a few things that we ought to do that would be good ideas.
There are, and I always remind people that if you want to deregulate, if you want to remove something from the Tennessee Code Annotated, it takes a bill to do that as well. And we do a lot of that, do a lot of streamlining and modernizing things.
I always say saying no is an affirmative act.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. So obviously the budget, we're the best managed fiscally managed state in the nation, and we're in great fiscal condition, but we are starting to see some headwinds. We're starting to see the effects of the disastrous policies of the Biden administration. The hyperinflation, obviously interest rates going up. We're seeing some slowdown in the Tennessee economy. A reminder to your listeners, we derive roughly 2/3 of our revenue from sales taxes. So we are very prone to ups and downs and swings in the economy. And that's why we're so conservative with our budget. When it's really good and the economy is humming, we don't spend that money. We don't spend all of that money. We might spend a little bit, but we're very conservative with our budget. So obviously we're going to be mindful of that. And then the other thing, you've talked about it, a lot of people are very excited about the governor's school choice initiative. I'll be the sponsor of that, along with the Education Committee Chairman, Senator John Lundberg, to provide education freedom scholarships to all Tennessee children.
On the budget front, and forgive me for not knowing, but that's why we have you here, is there a fund dedicated to kind of leveling out some of those peaks and valleys with regard to sales tax revenue going up and down during the bad times? I mean, COVID comes to mind. I would imagine, I was not here in 2020 and 2021, but I would bet that those are pretty lean times for government, in addition to lean times for businesses who were suffering as a result.
Absolutely. And to further complicate that, we base our budget on a forecasted revenue number. So as we convene here on Tuesday and we start talking about the budget will be for fiscal year 24-25, beginning July 1 of 2024, running through June 30 of 25. And we use a forecast, and so things can happen during that time. And COVID is a great example of that. COVID happened right in the middle of a fiscal year, and the economy came to a complete stop. So what we do to help manage that is a couple of things. Number one, we have recurring surpluses. If we're not having a surplus, we're not doing our job, because we don't know the exact amount of money we're going to have to deal with. So we're very conservative. So you want us every year to come in and say, hey, yeah, we collected a lot more than we forecasted we would collect. And what we do with that is we'll use that money sometimes for one-time expenses and not even recognize an increase in the base. And that's a very conservative way to handle your budget. Additionally, we do have a rainy day fund. It's at an all-time high, about $1.8 billion, I believe we have in our rainy day fund, that's just sitting there in case something catastrophic happens.
Let's turn our attention to education. Tell me why this is such a good deal for Tennessee families.
Well, ultimately, education is such an important part of what we do as a state government, and we do it in partnership with our local governments. We have school boards, roughly 140 school systems across the state, and I'm talking about public education. And obviously, there are a lot of great private schools, a great homeschool community in Tennessee. We have done a lot, and we've talked about it. Third grade retention. We've appropriated an additional $1 billion recurring money for public education. We've focused like a laser on trying to improve our educational outcomes for our public schools in Tennessee. But a key component of that is to empower parents. And we did that in a more limited fashion in 2019. We passed an education savings account bill that applied for Davids and Shelby, and then later we added in Hamilton County. And that was based on families that are zoned for failing schools. So if you're a parent and your child is zoned your public school down the street and they're just not getting the job done, we created an education savings account so you can put your child in a different type of educational environment. We need to expand that. Every parent in Tennessee should be able to choose the best educational alternative for their child, and that's what this bill will do.
Why so much anger about it?
Well, I think there's some misinformation. I think that there are some out there who misrepresent what true education freedom means. And for me, what it means, and I'm a parent of 3 kids that all went to Williams County Public Schools, got a great education, great teachers. We were obviously very engaged parents. We're not anti-public education. Roughly 85% of our kids today, Matt, attend a public school of some sort. This education freedom scholarship bill, as proposed by Governor Lee, is not going to change that number to any great extent, but there are families in unique circumstances all across the state. It may be your child has a unique learning need. It may be that the faith is important to you, and you want your kid in a school system that also teaches the Bible and prays. There are all manner of things. So I've just always been and long been an advocate of school choice. But there are people out there, you ask why people do get angry about it, and many do, and they think it's a threat to public education. It absolutely is not a threat to public education. And we, as Republicans in control of the Tennessee state government over the last 5 to 10 years, I think we've demonstrated we are committed to public schools.
The money that comes, and you'll broadly better educate me today about how money flows in our public education system. So the money that comes from the state, it's based on numbers of kids in the system, right?
That's right.
So is the anger based on the idea that some of those kids will get removed from certain systems, or some of the parents will choose to remove their children from certain systems, opting for a different educational opportunity? And so, I mean, I think it makes sense to me that if that child's not in the system, then that amount of money that the state contributes is no longer in the system as well. That's just, if somebody moves, that's the way that it works. Is that where the frustration comes from, is that they're worried about the money moving around?
Well, it may be for some, and I think that's misguided, and here's why. On average, loose numbers here, the state contributes about 2/3 of every dollar it takes to educate a child. 1/3 of that money comes from the local government.
Okay.
Now that varies widely. In Williamson County, most of the money comes from local government, and the state portion is a much smaller amount, because it's based on a number of different factors, but on average across the state. So when a child, let's say you have a child in Davidson County schools, and I don't know the exact amount that we're spending every year to educate a child between the local and the state money combined, but let's make up a number. Let's say it's $12,000 to $13,000 a year,
Okay.
but for that child. And the state's contributing, let's say, $8,000 or $9,000 of that. Well, the average statewide is about $7,000 per child. If a child leaves Davidson County Public Schools to go to a private school and they get a $7,000 Education Freedom Scholarship, the local government keeps all the money that they're putting in. Mm-hmm. It is actually net accretive to the local district for that child to leave and go to a private school.
And the money the state's using on the scholarship is in addition to monies that are already allocated for
from the
public
local
education.
government. Exactly. Well,
It doesn't come out of the same till, or does it?
Well, ultimately, yes. If a child is in public schools right now and the state is appropriating a X number of dollars for that kid, and again, it's going to vary from system to system, but they leave that school will lose the state allocation, just the state portion of the money that is dedicated to educate that child.
Because the money follows the child.
Exactly. The state portion does, but the local government gets to keep their local portion of that money.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So anyway, I don't view it as a threat financially or in any other manner to public education, and so that's going to be a lot of the conversation we're going to have over the next couple of months as we're debating this legislation and talking about it. But as you saw, a poll came out from the Beacon Center today,
Mm-hmm.
overwhelming support from all Tennesseans across the board. And it's a fundamental premise of the parent should decide what's best for their child.
I'm not here just to sing your praises, but I would say this, that I applaud the way the governor and leadership in both houses are approaching this. I expect that at the time the initial proposal was made, there had been a hope to make it a little more broad-based rather than limiting it to 3 counties, I guess it is.
Right. Yeah, today.
But now we're seeing this expansion to what, 20,000 scholarships total?
Yeah, to start with, correct.
And the hope, it's my understanding, is that if this works as expected, that it would be further expanded down the road.
It needs to be universal, and that's our ultimate goal, and I believe the governor's ultimate goal. I don't speak for the governor, but that's my understanding of his intention, that we get to a point at some point in the future where any child in the state of Tennessee can take one of these scholarships and go to the educational alternative that the parent believes is best for that child.
Do you believe the biggest impediment to this will be teachers' unions?
Well, that will be part of it, and school boards,
because they look at it as a threat.
They do, I think, and I think that's misguided. As I said, I don't believe it is a threat. In fact, ultimately, it could be a really good thing for education in general. But yeah, we're having great conversations with our school boards, our school superintendents. I've got meetings set up in the next few days with some of my local school boards, and that's happening all across the state. And the governor's people and the Department of Education have done a really good job, I think, of engaging with these stakeholder groups to realize, hey, this is not a threat. It's not an attack on public education. This is just good for kids.
When we come back, I want to talk to you about crime. I saw a story on the Tennessee Star website where over 30,000 residents have left Memphis in the last 6 or 7 years. And most of those individuals, who you can talk to say that they're doing so because of crime. I want to talk to you about what the state legislature can do to help alleviate Memphis crime, Nashville crime, and other areas that have seen a spike in crime over the last several years in the state of Tennessee. We'll do that with Senate Majority Leader Jack Johnson in just a moment. It's Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hey, friends, it's Matt Murphy. If you don't sleep well at night, is it possible that it's sleep apnea that has gone undiagnosed? Or maybe you know that you have sleep apnea. You're currently on a CPAP machine. And if your mild to moderate apnea if you're not solving the problem with a CPAP, maybe you just can't sleep with it or you don't wear it often. Let me give you an alternative. It's Dr. Stephen Paas and the Sleep Apnea and TMJ Solution Center. We can eliminate or dramatically reduce snoring. And as mentioned in a recent study, the bed partner of someone who snores loses an average of 60 minutes, a little over 60 minutes a night of sleep as well. So not only is the person who's experiencing sleep apnea tired, their partner's tired as well. And that leads to marital problems, folks. 25% of adults who have sleep apnea are unaware of these issues. These are major health issues that can result in high blood pressure, memory fog, diabetes, weight gain, and so much more. It's time to deal with this. Let's contact Dr. Stephen Paas at drpaas.com. That's drposs.com to find out how Dr. Paas can help. He has advanced training and teaches other dentists on a national level about treating sleep apnea in the way that he does. There are two offices to serve you. One's in Murfreesboro, the other in Brentwood. And they're the only office in our area that is in network with all major medical, all major insurance, like Aetna, Cigna, United Healthcare, TRICARE for the military, and BCBS. So contact them today at drpaas.com. That's drpaas.com. Yes, indeed. Back jiffy quick with Senate Majority Leader Jack Johnson on the Matt Murphy Show on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. 12:53. If you have a quick question for Jack, jump on the Super Text line at 615-737-9986. I'd love to hear from you about education or anything else perhaps taken up in the General Assembly. Over 30,000 residents, this report that I'm reading here, it says over 30,000 residents in Memphis and the surrounding communities between 2017 and 2022, so a 5-year span of time, left that area. The city shrunk by almost 5%. And a vast majority of the people who have been spoken with about this say that they're leaving in large part because of the crime situation that's going on in Memphis. We see naturally in our bigger communities in the state of Tennessee, Nashville, Memphis, maybe a little bit of Knoxville as well, you see higher crime rates. But in Memphis particularly, we see a lack of activity on the part of the district attorney there and the prosecutors more broadly in bringing some of these criminals to justice. There's a little bit of a soft on crime approach. What, if anything, can the General Assembly do to help alleviate these issues?
Well, let me first of all say you're exactly right. I was in Memphis with Senator Brent Taylor a couple of weeks ago, I guess, meeting with a number of local business leaders, community leaders to talk about the problem they're having down there, and it is very real. They are losing population. They're missing out on incredible economic development opportunities. There's companies that would like to come to Memphis, but they're worried about being able to hire people, get people to work there who will be willing to live in Memphis. I'll give you another example. St. Jude Children's Hospital, the world leader in cancer treatment for children, they were trying to recruit a Nobel Prize-winning researcher from somewhere else. I think it was even another country to come and help as a researcher in pediatric oncology, and had them really close to coming to go to work, and they decided not to because of the crime. So those are a couple of anecdotal examples. It's a very, very serious problem. So what can we do? Number one, obviously, continue to stiffen penalties on crimes. We can hold that DA accountable. We can hold the judges that are accountable down there. You had an individual that was charged with first-degree murder and was released with no bail on his own personal recognizance. That's absolutely unacceptable to have a person charged with first-degree murder back out on the streets with no accountability whatsoever. Another thing, our mutual friend, Aaron Gulbranson with the Tennessee Faith and Freedom Coalition, one of their big issues, and I very much look forward to working with them to fight human trafficking, which is a terrible problem all across the country and the world, but it's a problem here in Tennessee as well. And we've got legislation to empower our Attorney General, the Tennessee State Attorney General, Jonathan Skrmetti, to prosecute some of these crimes in areas where the local DA will not. Now, there's some constitutional issues there because DAs are very powerful. They've got broad authority to make decisions about who to prosecute and who to not prosecute. But I've spoken with police officers in Memphis, and they will tell you they have delivered people that they have caught in the commission of a crime, and they've got evidence. It is an open-shut case, and those cases are being dismissed. And that's a failure of prosecutorial discretion.
Well, and you know, we saw an example of that at Belmont University. The young lady's name escapes me right now, but the 18-year-old that got shot and killed. Tragic. And this was an individual that was a recidivist within the system in Davidson County, and sadly was out after a series of crimes there. So obviously that's an area of focus. In the couple of minutes that we have left, I don't want to leave this on the table. Does it concern you that, and maybe you guys in the Senate do, but we publicly have not seen any further information regarding the Covenant School Manifesto. It feels as if our legislative leadership, their hands are somewhat tied with how they move forward with something, if anything, that we can do to attempt to get people the mental health that they need if they have mental illness. Or, there will be calls from the minority to do something about guns and red flag laws and all of that. How difficult is it for you, Jack, to do your job in the General Assembly without that information?
Well, it does make it more difficult, and as you know, that is tied up in a legal morass, if you will. It's tied up in the courts, both federal and state, and so I don't hold out a lot of hope right now that those documents from the Covenant shooter will be made public. However, here's what we do know. That particular individual was desperately mentally ill. I know enough about the manifesto, the writings, if you want, and her background to know that she was desperately mental ill. And that is a key part of the criminal justice aspect as well. We had some good conversations during special session. As you know, the Senate felt like some of these matters were better handled during regular session, so that will be a big part of what you hear us talking about relative to crime. It's not all of crime, but so much of crime is being perpetrated by people who need mental health treatment.
Well, and we saw the case in Belmont, not to interrupt you there, but the case in Belmont involved an individual who was not prosecuted for crimes because they were deemed unable to be prosecuted because of mental disability, yet they could not hold them, and so they released him.
Hey, Matt, her name was Jillian Ludwig.
Jillian Ludwig. Thank you. Thank you, Bill.
Yeah, and so you're right, but I think we may have talked about this on the air, but I'm familiar with at least a couple of other instances where someone was deemed to be unfit to stand trial, and they were held, and the judge ordered that they be incarcerated is not the right, but they be taken to a mental treatment facility and involuntarily committed. And you know what happens when you're involuntarily committed in the state of Tennessee? It becomes illegal for you to own, possess, or purchase a firearm.
Right.
So we have to increase our access to mental health. It'll be a big part of the conversation, and in addition to stiffening penalties and holding our DAs accountable.
Jack, as always, the half hour flies by when we have you in. We'll obviously speak to you quite often during the General Assembly. We look forward to those conversations, look forward to that activity. Best of luck.
Thank you, Matt. Happy New Year.
There's Senate Majority Leader Jack Johnson, a good 30 minutes with Jack, talking about the upcoming session that cranks up the 9th of this month. We've got 2 more hours to go. It's Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Don't forget, coming up in the next hour, Dr. Carol Swain will join us to talk about the intellectual property theft of Claudine Gay. That's on the way.
From ABC News, I'm Michelle Franzen. Growing concerns of a widening conflict in the Middle East as the Israel-Hamas war nears its third month. ISIS militants based in Iran claiming responsibility for the twin blasts at a memorial in Iran yesterday, killing nearly 100 people. U.S. officials confirm overnight the U.S. military carried out airstrikes in Iraq, targeting Iranian-backed militants who have been carrying out attacks on U.S. troops stationed in the region. ABC's Martha Raddatz is in Israel with more.
We've had more than 100 attacks on U.S. forces in Syria and Iraq. And then you have the Houthis in Yemen who continue to fire on ships in the Red Sea, and U.S. naval warships having to shoot down drones that are flying all around the Red Sea from the Houthis. So that's the place that I would really keep my eye on in this is Yemen.
The White House says President Biden is monitoring developments following the shooting today in Iowa at Perry High School. Two law enforcement sources telling ABC News the gunman died of a self-inflicted gunshot wound. Dallas County Sheriff Adam Infante says students were returning from winter break.
This happened at approximately 7:37 this morning. School didn't start yet, luckily, so there was very few students and faculty in the building.
Several others were injured and taken to local hospitals. Attorneys for former President Trump asking the courts to penalize federal prosecutors for violating an order in the special counsel's January 6th case.
Trump's attorneys note the January 6th case is technically on pause, with the D.C. Circuit Appeals Court set to hear arguments next week on Trump's immunity claims. Now, despite this stay, the special counsel entered a motion last month seeking to restrict the arguments Trump's lawyers might make in front of the jury. The defense attorneys say the prosecution's motion violated the stay the judge put in place. And for that, they now say Jack Smith's team should be held in contempt.
ABC's Stephen Portnoy in Washington. You're listening to ABC News.
Hey, friends, it's Matt Murphy for Paul Winkler. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're thinking about your finances in 2024, it's time to think about calling Paul Winkler and his team. I wanted to work with planners who were degreed, who were invested in an evidence-based perspective, and who were also invested in helping me understand my investments. And it's something you don't get with a lot of other firms. Paul and his team, they hold themselves to the highest standard, being fiduciaries. They put your best interest above any other interest in their office. In fact, because they do, I get to tell you that I'm paid during this commercial. That's because we're required to do that. And look, I don't hear anybody else doing that. I love the way that Paul works because he has a way of explaining things that just make sense. The other thing important to me, they don't work for a mutual fund company. They don't work for an investment firm. They don't work for a bank. They represent me and they represent you. So they can help you with your financial decisions. Check them out. 615-851-1950. 615-851-1950 for a complimentary 15-minute telephone conversation. Tell them I sent you or go straight to paulwinkler.com. That's paulwinkler.com. Get on the schedule and get your finances right in 2024 with Paul Winkler. It is hour number 2 of the Matt Murphy Show on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. We've got an awful situation happening in Iowa. We're going to give you the update on it as best we know it in just a couple of minutes. We'll take your telephone calls and your super text as well in hour number 2. Plus, Dr. Carol Swain joins us at 1:35 this afternoon to talk about the Harvard University saga that has culminated in the resignation of Claudine Gay. Although she keeps her job as a professor, she keeps her large $900,000 a year salary as well. We will discuss with Dr. Swain the aftermath of that. If you don't know, Dr. Carol Swain was one of the named individuals who had their information, their study, their scholarship lifted by Claudine Gay and used as her own. That's coming up at 1:35 this afternoon. 615-737-9986. Larry writes in, did I do something wrong here, Larry? Larry's upset at me. Larry says, and by the way, Larry, I did not see your text at 12:44 in the afternoon, but I did note your text at 1:01. Dang, Matt! You had the chance to ask him about something that matters to everyone, and you ignored. Shaking my head. SMH. You're referring to the certificate of need. Matt, ask him if he would support getting rid of the certificate of need, which is required to build a hospital. It was supposed to be up for the people to vote on last election, and all of a sudden it was removed. Well, thankfully for you, Larry, and for all of the listening audience, we will have our good friend, Senate Majority Leader Jack Johnson, back. Plenty of time. Secondarily, I will ask him that question. Thirdly, I would tell you that as a libertarian with a small L, I believe that government interference should be involved only when absolutely necessary, and I believe that competitive forces can dictate whether or not hospitals can succeed. Now, hospitals are a little bit different than your typical place of business in what they do and their associations with government through government-funded or subsidized health care and that sort of thing, but largely, I would agree with you. I'm taking from your comment, Larry, that you would support getting rid of the Certificate of Need Board or the Certificate of Need required to build hospitals, considering that you called it a con, which a lot of times, I mean, I'm very familiar with this, in as much as in my time in Birmingham, Alabama, I fought against the need for a board to authorize the building of a hospital anywhere in the state of Alabama because I thought it was just rife with financial entanglement. It was ultimately responsible for a former governor of the state of Alabama getting incarcerated. Don Siegelman was put in jail behind bars because he was accused and convicted of taking money from a man by the name of Richard Scrushy to affect the outcome of a certificate of need that was let for Scrushy for a hospital that was built just outside of Birmingham, Alabama. So I'm very familiar with the subject. And I'm happy to ask about that question the next time that we have Jack on. I apologize for not getting to your question. 615-737-9986 is our telephone number. We'd love to hear from you. The Perry Police Department responded early this morning to an active shooter situation at Perry High School in a town of Perry, Iowa. Let me tell you what we know at this time. There was a press conference held a couple of hours ago, and there is expected to be another one this afternoon. But here's what we know. Multiple people were injured in the shooting at a Iowa high school earlier this morning at approximately 7:37 local time. Police received reports of an active shooting scene at Perry High School in Perry, Iowa. Officers responded within 7 minutes of the alarm, according to the Dallas County Sheriff, Adam Infante. Total number of victims and their status have not been confirmed as of the article that I am reading, and this article was out about an hour ago. And Bell, do me a favor and sleuth through the internet and make sure that that's not been updated. But as of about an hour, actually it's about an hour and a half ago now, just before noon, the victims and their status was not being released. The sheriff in a press conference earlier said the community is safe. We're now working backwards, trying to figure out everything that happened and make notifications. We'll have another update later on today. The AP reported 2 gunshot victims were taken by ambulance to the Iowa Methodist Medical Center in the state capital of Des Moines. Law enforcement source told the Associated Press the suspect in the shooting died of what was believed to be a self-inflicted gunshot wound. The shooting happened before school started, which would indicate to me, and this is Matt Murphy talking on the radio, pure speculation here, but you and I talk about these types of things in this way often, so don't hold me accountable on this, but I can extrapolate from that. The fact that this happened before school started indicates to me that this was not by design to be a mass shooting situation, that it was a more targeted situation. Does that make sense? I hope it does. This is not to diminish the serious nature and the tragic nature of what happened. It's just diagnosing what we can glean from the timing as to the motivation of the shooter itself. Who knows? And more information will get filled in as time moves forward, but it's a basic analysis. If someone wanted to do the most damage possible, potentially they would wait until school had actually opened. This was the first day back after the Christmas holiday for those at Perry High School. There were students on the scene, however. There were a number of students waiting for the school day to start, and those students had to obviously evacuate. And it was one in particular, as reported by Fox News, who was grazed with gunshots, hid in a classroom before texting their father at 7:36 in the morning. So that's really all we know about the school shooting as it happened earlier today. The other breaking story, the major breaking story, and we reflected on this in the first hour of the show, this document dump with relation to Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. It was a first batch of unsealed documents. There was really no, outside of certain quotes and certain information regarding individuals like Bill Clinton and the like, there was nothing revelatory in this batch. Federal court in New York, just to give you a little bit of the background, federal court in New York unsealed these documents relating to disgraced, dead financier Jeffrey Epstein, who obviously we now know was trafficking in underage sex to incredibly high-profile clients. It was the first step in this process to reveal more than 150 names of people who surfaced in a lawsuit that accuser Virginia Guffrey brought against former lover and accomplice Ghislaine Maxwell. The unsealed Epstein documents did not provide the smoking gun that many had hoped for, according to trial attorney Nirma Rahmani. No definitive list of who visited the island, for example, but there was enough to frighten a lot of powerful people who had perhaps been there. More documents are expected to be revealed today. So let me just, for those asking, because several of you have been asking for an update. Maybe you missed the libertarian lunchtime hour. The "he likes some young" comment came out in this first batch. Most of the attention-grabbing claims came from a deposition from Johanna Soberg, who worked as a masseuse for Jeffrey Epstein. And one of the attorneys in the case asked Soberg if she knew about a friendship between Epstein and Bill Clinton. She said, "I knew he had dealings with Bill Clinton. I did not know that they were friends until I read the Vanity Fair article about them going to Africa together. Did Jeffrey ever talk to you about Bill Clinton?" The attorney asked. He said one time that Clinton likes them young, referring to girls. It should be noted that Bill Clinton has yet to be charged or criminally prosecuted with any wrongdoing in connection with Jeffrey Epstein. Leading to my frustrated monologue at the top of the show. There was another revelation that indicated that there was a reward offered to Guffrey's friends, that's Virginia Guffrey's friends and family, to disprove her allegations. In a typed email from Epstein to Maxwell, Epstein told his accomplish, you can issue a reward to any of Virginia's friends or acquaintances, family that will come forward and help prove her allegations false. In other words, he was worried about her allegations against him. The strongest claims he wrote involved the Clinton dinner and a bizarre allegation that Stephen Hawking participated in an orgy of underage individuals. Number 3, the David Copperfield allegations that Copperfield was at that dinner and did magic tricks at the dinner, whatever that means. And then Prince Andrew and his association. So the biggest names that came out of this revelation was Prince Andrew. We already know about Prince Andrew, David Copperfield, Stephen Hawking, and Bill Clinton. There are more names to come. Once again, I'm going to reiterate what I said in the first hour. It is frustrating to me because this gets us no closer to putting pedophiles behind bars. I want to know what, if any, open and active investigations are going on against individuals such as Bill Clinton regarding his activity on Epstein Island and the possibility that Bill Clinton was involved in sexual activity or abuse of underage girls or people generally. I want pedophiles put behind bars. That is my goal. Because there is no more disgusting group of human beings than pedophiles. The only thing that matters in all of this is openness in government and what our government knows that it is not currently telling us and why they would withhold that information. What possible explanation would there be for not having a full-fledged investigation into all of these people, about all of this? They know who flew on the plane. They know who landed on the island. They know what was going on that island. Does that mean that everyone that landed on that island is guilty? No, but let's find out. My anger about all of this revolves around a certainty. And it is a certainty that this does not get us closer to convicting pedophiles. Charging, prosecuting, and convicting and jailing pedophiles. That's what I want. Now, I want the truth out there. I want to know if they have the receipts, the American people, the people of the world deserve to see the receipts. Don't tell me how our reaction will be. Don't tell me that it will blow our minds. Don't tell me that we'll be too angry, that we can't handle it. Stop treating the American people and the rest of the world like children. Why is the FBI, and frankly, if they don't have information, I want to know what the hell that is too. If you don't have this information, where is it? The reports are that Jeffrey Epstein was blackmailing very, very rich people to continue to do business with him based on compromising situations that he put them in involving underage girls. If that's the case, if you're using that island to blackmail high-priority, high-profile people through audio tape, videotape, documentation of some form or fashion, if the FBI has all of those assets, they raided his property. They should have all of this. And if they have all of this, what are they doing with it? And why are more people not demanding that we find out? Sure, I understand that stories about Stephen Hawking having orgies is salacious. And, it leads to a rubbernecker mentality. I get that. I understand that many of you want to know if Bill Clinton did what we think Bill Clinton did and whether or not Bill Clinton will ever be on this earth held to account. Because I promise you something. He'll be held to account in the next life. 6403 says the statute of limitations has passed on Epstein's case. I don't know if that's true or not. And regardless of whether or not these things have passed, the American people and the people of the world deserve to know. And even if the statute of limitations is over, do you not believe that it would be a certain level of punishment to expose these scummy, disgusting pieces of human debris for what they are? I mean, if it is true, if what we believe about, for example, Bill Clinton is true, would it not be some level of punishment that information get to the world at large? To shame this scumbag for the rest of his mortal life? 5551 says, where are the women? Well, many of the women have come forward. Many of the women were paid off, it appears. And I would love to see more of these women come forward. So that's what we know about that. It's 121 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. When we return your telephone calls, at some point over the course of the day, I'll make good on a promise that I made yesterday with regard to a question that I would ask of Congressman Mark Green when it comes to his finances. As a matter of fact, Kathy has admonished me that I did not pay off that question from yesterday. I'll do so next on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hey, friends, it's 2024. It's time to get busy with your health in the new year. Do you want to eliminate pain in your life? Well, there's a way to do it without needing to take pills with regularity, without the need for surgery, and certainly without the need for needles and whatnot. It is the Dr. Gill Center for Back, Neck, and Chronic Pain Relief, and it is located in Franklin, Tennessee. A short drive from anywhere within the sound of my voice, and well worth it. The Dr. Gill Center will give you a comprehensive examination. All you need to do is call and schedule that appointment. When you do, an agent from the Dr. Gill Center will be with you. They'll get you scheduled. They'll get you in there. They'll get you x-rays. They'll give you a comprehensive, full examination, and then they will diagnose a plan of success, a plan of action that involves spinal decompression or the Class 5 laser system, the red light therapy, whatever's going to alleviate the pain in your body, reduce swelling, accelerate healing, they're going to do that. And you will eliminate the need to pop pills. You won't have to consider surgery anymore. This is the way to go, friends. It's the Dr. Gill Center. They originated most of the modern techniques in Middle Tennessee. They are simply the best when it comes to your pain, wherever it originates on your body. Give them a call. Schedule that appointment. 615-882-4838. 615-882-4838. It's the Dr. Gill Center for Back, Neck, and Chronic Pain Relief. Tell them Matt Murphy sent you. Call today. Super Talk 99.7 WTN, the Matt Murphy Show in progress. Glad you are with us. It is 1:25. Would love to hear from you. 615-737-9986. 615-737-WWTN, either via the super text line or the phone lines. We are up and available for comment. Real quick, Kathy wagged her email finger at me yesterday because I promised. I have one question for our good friend and 7th Congressional District Representative Mark Green. Now, Mark was all over the news prominently yesterday for a different reason than his personal finances. He was one of the dignitaries, one of the 60 GOP members of the House of Representatives who went down to the southern border to see for himself. He's been down there before as the chairman of the House Homeland Security Committee. He knows the deal on the southern border, has seen it in person on numerous occasions, and was down with Speaker of the House Mike Johnson, my friend Gary Palmer, and many other members of the Republican Party to witness some of the illegal alien activity for their own eyes. We heard him on the drive yesterday with Brian Wilson, and I think Mark is a great and fine representative of the 7th Congressional District. He was in the news yesterday for another reason, and that was involving his personal finances. A list from the online site Unusual Whales came out indicating that Mark Green, of all of the members of Congress, that Mark Green had made investments that, from a percentage standpoint, stood out above and beyond the average stock market trading rate by a percentage of, I think it was 122%. In other words, he was outdoing the market average by 122%, his investments. Now, I made mention of this earlier in the week, and Mark Green's office reached out to me with a letter indicating that Congressman Mark Green has had nothing to do with his investment portfolio since 2020. And I assume this was when he went in to serve as a House of Representatives member. The letter indicated that Mark Green believed it important enough to be on the up and up, that he was putting his trust in an investment advisor. And here's what the letter said. It's dated June 18th of 2020. It is on the letterhead, Mark E. Green, MD, and it has blacked out the recipient to this letter. It says, Dear Blank. That's where it's blacked out, and the letterhead also blacks out the address of the recipient. Please accept this letter as written authorization for you to initiate investments on behalf of my wife and me. As a member of Congress who seeks to preserve the public trust, I will not be providing any input on how to invest our funds, and you are to disregard any input if you do receive any. You have the trust of our family to make wise financial decisions on our behalf. Please also file the required periodic transaction reports as required by the Stock Act and congressional ethics rules. Thank you, Mark E. Green. I don't know that there's any there, except that it appears that Mark Green's financial investments paid off at a percentage rate of 122.2% higher than the SPY average, which was about 24%. This was number 2 in all of Congress, only behind Brian Higgins, who got a 238.9% return above and beyond the SPY average. A number of other names that you might be familiar with, Richard Blumenthal, 61.8%, Nancy Pelosi, 65.5%, Pete Sessions, Republican, 63.3%, and down the line, names like, David Kustoff, who is also a Tennessee representative from over in Germantown, just outside of Memphis, 50.3% for Kustoff. Anybody else from Tennessee? Chuck Fleischman is from Tennessee, 28.3% for him. So I said yesterday that there was really one question that I had for Congressman Green, and frankly, how he answers this question could very easily lay this issue to bed for me. And that question is simple. Who's your financial advisor? What individual or what firm, what group did you write the letter to on June 18th of 2020? I don't know of a legitimate reason why you wouldn't be willing to offer that information. You're giving that individual an incredible plug by doing so because they're obviously incredibly good at what they do. If they're seeing a 122% return on investments made on your behalf and you have no involvement, that's all on them. Congratulations and kudos. You have picked an incredible investment advisor. So the next time we have Mark on, and I expect it'll be fairly soon, I'll ask him that question. I mean, and once again, it's not a trick question. It's not a trap question. It is not a loaded question. It's a simple one. You tell us that you authorized all of your investments in the stock market to be made on behalf of you and your family to someone. Who was that individual or who was that firm? And if you're, and I'm not suggesting that Congressman Green would be hesitant to say, I don't think he would. But I can't think of a reason why he would be hesitant. Wendy, you're very funny. Wendy says, we all know that the redacted investment advisor is Andy Ogles. Stop it, Wendy. It's not funny. I take it back. That's not funny.
Why do they let these people text from prison?
I don't know. By the way, we're getting a lot of response from our Sean Braswell conversation. For your information, I know a man in Sumner County named Sean Braswell. He's probably incarcerated and has been in and out of jail multiple times over the years. I just want to know if I can open up this information. I would hate to think that he's spending good money to send me emails that I don't open for fear of an internet virus. That's all I'm saying. It's 1:32. You're listening to Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hey, gentlemen, let's talk about your hairline. That's a personal issue, and I know that some of you are sensitive to this conversation, but I've got a solution for you that I want you to explore in the new year. It's PAI Medical. It's We Grow Hair. They have a trademarked procedure at We Grow Hair that helps you grow more hair, have more hair in one procedure than you do with the other guys. It's as simple as that. It's PAI's multi-unit hair grafting procedure, which saves you time, saves you money, and the only one that has it is We Grow Hair and PAI. So it's backed by a company that I trust, and I've visited these folks out in Brentwood. I've talked with them. I've walked through the procedure myself. Thankfully, I don't have issues with hair loss, but if you do, let's get those issues behind you with PAI and We Grow Hair. Call them right now at 615-376-6010. 376-6010. Your looks are important, gentlemen. Find out why thousands of men have chosen We Grow Hair to restore their hair. We Grow Hair is right for you in Nashville, and they will be there for you before, during, and after your procedure. Their website, WeGrowHair.com. WeGrowHair.com. Call today for an appointment, 615-376-6010. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Matt Murphy and you. Coming up in just a couple of minutes, Dr. Carol Swain, who had her intellectual property stolen from her, plagiarized by Claudine Gay, the former university president of Harvard University, will be on with us. Belle, let me know if you've got it or if you need it. If you need it, I can get it to you. I'm talking about her number there. 615-737-9986 is our telephone number if you'd like to be a part of the show. Jim has called in from Nashville. Hey, Jim, how are you?
Hey, how are you doing? Hey.
I'm doing well, Jim. What's on your mind?
Hey, so I just got a question for you. What's your opinion? So if this does go far enough and Bill does get indicted and is sent to prison, will he still have his Secret Service to protect him?
No. He will. If he ever went to prison, Bill Clinton would go to a Club Med type prison. I bet you that he would have some sort of specialized protection. I know that the question is kind of a joke, but I'll answer in a serious fashion. And sorry to suspend the call, but I got Dr. Carol Swain on the line. I would, in a more serious way, if a president of the United States goes to prison, they will never be in a general population. They are afforded certain protections. It's never happened before. But if the former president were prosecuted and convicted, I assure you he would not be in the general population. We welcome back to the show Dr. Carol Swain, who has been making some regular appearances for reasons that she had nothing to do with, but she's such a jewel of Nashville. We wanted to speak with her again and get her take on the ultimate resignation of the former now president of Harvard University, Claudine Gay, for, in part, stealing the work of Dr. Carol Swain. And she joins us on the Matt Murphy Show this afternoon. Dr. Swain, how are you?
Good afternoon. I'm a bit worn out from all the interviews. It's been a whirlwind since December 10th. There was a brief reprieve, and then January 3rd or 4th, it's back at it.
Could you ever have you're the publisher of, you're the author of so many books. You've published so many books. I don't imagine that this was high on your list of things that would happen to you in 2023 into 2024.
You know, I'm a very devout Christian believer. And my book, The Adversity of Diversity, it was not selling very well. But when it was revealed that I was among the people that Claudine Gay had plagiarized, all of a sudden my book sales shot up. And just the whole issue that the president of Harvard University plagiarized in her dissertation parts of my work, it has really dramatically impacted my life. Some ways negative, but I think in the long run, it'll be positive.
I am fascinated with the excuse making that's going on, not necessarily by Claudine Gay herself, although there was some of that in her resignation letter, but more over from the political left who want to excuse her plagiarism and who want to present a narrative that this was done as an attack on her because she's an African-American female. And yesterday, Dr. Swain, it's almost with a detached amusement that I note that, wait a minute, she's accused of stealing the work of another African-American female by the name of Dr. Carol Swain. So how in the world could they present this as some form of racist attack?
Because they totally ignored me. And some of the things you may not know is that my attorney had a letter delivered to Harvard. Today they got the hard copy. Yesterday they got the email demanding the answers to certain questions and also staking out my position as far as my own rights. That happened, and then that afternoon Claudine Gay had an op-ed in the New York Times. Part of the issue is that Claudine Gay and the Harvard Corporation, in their statements, they have never acknowledged any wrongdoing, and all of them blame either the right wing or racism for the questions being asked about Claudine Gay. And I'm certainly not motivated by racism. I'm motivated by a concern about high academic standards. And the letter that was delivered to them today, which is on my Twitter page, it just asks some straightforward questions about what constitutes plagiarism. And if a person plagiarizes their dissertation, does that would that call their degree into question? And there are about 5 questions that my lawyer presented to them, and we gave them until Monday to respond.
Well, hopefully they will, and hopefully we can have you back to tell us how exactly they respond. I want to back up for a moment to help folks understand, because most of us do not regularly engage in scholarly writing. You do, Dr. Swain. What fail-safes do you utilize when you write, when you are the author of very, very high-level concepts like you've authored over these many years? What do you do to make sure that you are not inadvertently regurgitating the work of others? Is there a process that you go through?
Well, I mean, it's not a process that I go through. I, like you and probably everyone else, we were taught in school not to plagiarize and not to take, not to put quotation marks around work that you take from another person. And if it's more than 3 or 4 sentences, you do a block quote and you put a citation. And I think that most scholars, like me, we have lived in terror that we would accidentally plagiarize.
Right.
But the whole idea with Claudine Gay is this is not like 1 or 2 accidental instances. Last count, it was up to 50. So I was the one that coined the phrase that she's a serial plagiarizer. These are not accidents, and there are 2 direct places where she plagiarized my work. But my contention is that her whole research agenda comes from my prize-winning book, Black Faces, Black Interests, the Representation of African Americans in Congress. And part of what brought her down is that, we do have all this plagiarism software now. That's kind of new. But there had been allegations apparently over the years that she was plagiarizing. And I wrote an op-ed piece on December 17th, I believe, that I pointed out that her record was mediocre. Even without the plagiarism, she did not warrant tenure at an Ivy League school, much less to become the president of Harvard.
Dr. Carol Swain, our guest, Nashville resident, talking about her experience over the last month concerning Claudine Gay's obvious plagiarism and her involvement in that plagiarism. For me, I'm curious your thoughts about Harvard and why Harvard, or let me ask it this way. Do you believe that in an examination of her work that it was possible that Harvard University did not see the plagiarism that seems so obvious to us now when you compare your work to hers, when you compare other work to what she claimed to be her own? The instances of plagiarism are numerous. 50 is the count that you just cited, and that's the one that I'm seeing as well. Is it possible that Harvard missed this, or was this intentional in their desire to fulfill or to check off these DEI boxes that they're so desperate to check now?
Well, Claudine Gay was fast-tracked from the very beginning. She went to Phillips Exeter Academy, one of the leading, if not the best, boarding school in America. So she had an elite education. She didn't go to some inner-city high school. She comes from a wealthy Haitian family. Her undergraduate degree is from Stanford. Her PhD is from Harvard. And she has won prizes for her writings. We know that dissertation was plagiarized. She got a prize for that. And her undergraduate thesis, I don't know if anyone ever looked at the undergraduate thesis, but I think that she had the right pedigree. And even though her work was mediocre, they pushed her through. And I would even contend that after reading her dissertation, even rereading my own dissertation, rereading my book, reading her work, it's almost like she was trying to counter the ideas that I had in Black Faces, Black Interests. That book won 3 national prizes, was cited by the U.S. Supreme Court in 2 cases, and it just had a major impact on the field of representation, a research field of representation. And so there are many studies that came out of Black Faces, Black Interests by other people. What troubled me about Claudine Gay, more than just the 2 places where she stole language, is that in her articles that were clearly drawing on my research, she's not citing me where I should be cited. And given the closeness of what she did to what I was doing, I was cheated out of citations. And in academia, your statute depends on how many citations you get. If people decide that they're going to cancel you and they're not going to cite your work, it hurts you. And I can say that, I was trained to be a professor. I taught 28 years, 18 at Vanderbilt. I'm not in the classroom, and a lot of that has to do with the changing culture. That people like me that didn't say what the progressives wanted said, that there was no place for us.
So the suggestion has been made, and I want to ask you if you were able to give advice to those in a decision-making capacity at Harvard, what your advice would be as to how to move forward. But I've seen the suggestion online, Dr. Swain, that, some have suggested that this was racist in its intent. I think that's ridiculous on its face. But those making those suggestions would say, well, there must be an African-American female selected as the next president of Harvard in order to dispel some of those accusations. And I join a chorus of individuals that would suggest that you would be perfect in that role.
Well, let me tell you that's the most ridiculous argument. That because for one thing, they picked her because of their desire to virtue signal.
Right.
They were concerned about social engineering. They knew that her record was thin, and so Harvard put themselves in that situation. I think Harvard should be seeking the best available person, but not a DEI appointment. They need someone that has not, drawn the line in the ground or whatever the expression is around DEI. They need someone who's committed to the principles of academic integrity and research and teaching. They don't need someone to push a political agenda or Marxist agenda. So I'm hoping that they will abandon this DEI quest that got them into trouble in the first place.
Well, the entire lie about DEI, it's not about diversity in a positive way. It's about subjugating one group of people to the advancement of another group of people, something that I thought we had set behind us in our nation's history. But sadly, there are many that want to bring it back. They just want to reverse the roles. Do I have that wrong, Dr. Swain?
You have it right. And the very fact that her supporters would say she must be replaced with a black woman. Why? It doesn't make any sense to me. Why must she be replaced with a black woman? It seems to me she needs to be replaced for the good of Harvard and for the good of the nation and Harvard's influence with the best available person, regardless of race or sex. And it might be a white man. It might be an older white man, someone over 60, but the best available person to move the university forward and try to help it reclaim the statue it once had in the world. It has lost ground, and I don't see it being turned around by any DEI appointment. And another thing that's really troubling is that Claudine Gay gets to keep her position on the faculty, her $900,000 a year salary, when, in my opinion, and in the opinion of many people that have looked at her record, she was never qualified to be on the faculty in the first place, and she should have been fired because of the plagiarism. And they could have paid her a going-away fee or whatever they wanted to pay her. But for her to remain on the faculty while she has not acknowledged any guilt and she's blaming racism rather than her own actions, I want to see an adult woman take responsibility for the choices she made that put her and her institution in the spotlight.
Dr. Swain, if you had the opportunity to offer advice to Harvard or any of these other schools, I mean, Harvard is just the best example of these once esteemed universities that have fallen by the wayside in disgrace. What would your advice be to them?
First of all, they're not helping the groups they purport to want to help. It doesn't help racial and ethnic minorities when you lower the standards and argue that it's necessary to lower the standards to get people in those positions. Long before the DEI regime became so aggressive, there were people that were in those institutions. They were meeting the same criteria. And I can tell you that when I got early tenure at Princeton, the standard was you had to have path-breaking work. Your work had to be seminal, and you had to have a book. Claudine Gay has never published a book. All of her articles, her 10 articles over a 20-year career, are riddled with plagiarism. That harms black people. And this is a person who's had a world-class education, and I think that they're not doing black people or any racial and ethnic minority a favor when they go to the mat fighting for this woman, trying to say that her own actions are not responsible for her situation. And she failed to measure up by objective standards, clear objective standards. And plagiarism used to be enough to get a person fired. But in the case of Harvard, you get a soft landing, and you get the institution to stake its, pretty much diminish its own reputation, just trying to save one person.
Dr. Carol Swain is the author of The Adversity of Diversity. I encourage you to get the book. And a lot of folks want you to know, Dr. Swain, as they listen to you and our conversation, a lot of my listening audience are telling me to tell you how much we love the fact that you are associated with Nashville, Tennessee. You're an absolute national treasure. And thank you for spending the time to get the good word out to so many people across our country. And thank you for spending a little bit of time with us this afternoon.
Well, thank you, too. And I hope everyone has a great new year. Maybe some good things will happen, and maybe this is part of it.
Dr. Swain for Harvard president. I'm starting the push right here. Thank you, Dr. Swain. We appreciate you.
Bye.
Take care. There's Dr. Carol Swain joining us for a few good moments. It's 1:53 on Super Talk. Hey, friends, it's Matt Murphy, and let's talk a little bit about safety. Obviously, today's events, this morning's events, put school safety in the spotlight yet again in a negative way. And sadly, these things happen in the modern era. It's a dangerously developing world, and you need to be prepared for it. Well, part of that preparation, if you are a business owner, if you are a decision maker in a school or a church or really any place that people gather, I encourage you to contact Brink Fiddler and Defense Systems. Defense Systems is an active shooter and physical security expert organization. They are designed for a dangerously developing world. It's all about life safety and security consultation with Defense Systems. They're going to help you understand how to respond in the event, on the unlikely event, but an event, a possibility nonetheless, of an active shooter situation, workplace violence prevention, security improvement consultation, rapid response medical training, all of this customized to your facility and to your needs. Brink Fiddler can help. If you are a decision maker in a school or in a church or in a place of business, you owe it to yourself and your employees to call Brink Fiddler today. Call Defense Systems. Go online to email them at defensesystems.com or give them that call at 615-236-6484, 236-6484 for our friends at Defense Systems. Supertalk 99.7 WTN, the Matt Murphy Show in progress, 156, almost 157. Great to have you with us. And thank you so much for your participation on the Super Text line. You can also participate on the phone line, 615-737-9986. TB writes in, another example of not being accountable for your actions. Same thing they're doing with all of the black youth who smash, grab, rob, and beat up people, and they get let out of jail. Have you seen the video? It's going around. It has gone viral. It is out of Las Vegas, Nevada. A district court judge has a suspect
I know exactly. Yeah.
In front of her, a female judge, and this individual who had been repeatedly charged with violent offenses and had been repeatedly let out on probation was facing either a jail sentence or probation. And the judge says, no, we're not doing probation. I think it's time that you experience some consequences for the actions that you've committed. And while this judge is indicating that there will be no probation, there will be jail time, this guy launches himself over the table that he's standing behind, launches himself over the bench, and starts beating the judge. And I got to tell you, watching the video, I don't know how you felt about it, Bell, but some things ought to tote an ass whipping.
Well, I looked at that and I went, I wonder why she was going to send him to jail.
I know. I mean, right? I mean, and I understand that it's rife for humor, and I get that. I'm not above some of the humor. But first and foremost, I worry about the judge. I worry about all judges. I wonder where the hell there should have been a level of I don't want to be too quick to criticize.
Part of the scene is blocked because the camera's not focused on it. But there were at least two people on this guy trying to get him off of her, and he was going nuts on her.
Pretty quickly. So I don't want to fault the bailiffs. I don't want to fault the security because, look, if you and I were bailiffs in that courtroom, Bell, every day we see the same crap. Every day we see bad guys who have done bad things, and they are either sentenced to probation or sentenced to jail. And, I can understand why you would not be on high alert for this sort of thing to happen. I get that. So I don't want to be too critical of those people. At the same time, well, all I know is what my grandpa taught me. And it's as simple as this. You go through life, you can be all the Billy Badass you want to be. But some things tote a butt whipping. And you need to be prepared for understanding where that line is.
And that was one of them.
If they had hit him with a billy club, they would have been the bad guys suddenly. It is 2 o'clock on Supertalk 99.7 WT, and it is time to elevate the conversation with Mac Morey in the news closet. Back in a moment for hour number 3.
Two o'clock, I'm Mac Morey with your top stories. Currently 44 degrees, sunny in Nashville. Looking at the forecast, looks like a lot of that, mid-40s. We'll let you know more for what full weather forecast coming up in 2 minutes. Parents reuniting with their children outside an Iowa high school after a deadly shooting. Here's Dave Packer.
The shooting that left one person dead at Perry High School happened before classes were to start on the first day back after the winter break. Amy Smith's cousin is a student.
She was in the cafeteria in the morning and she heard the gunshots and she ran.
Jody Kurth is the stepmother of 2 students at the school. One of them, she says, was hit in the back and arm during the shooting.
One of the worst moments of my entire life, but the best phone call I got was saying that they were okay. I'm glad that they're okay.
Police say they have identified the shooter, but have not yet released his name.
And officers arrived 7 minutes after shots were reported. Here in Tennessee, a large police presence was near Woodlawn Elementary School in Clarksville today after a reported shooting near there. Someone at a nearby home was shooting a firearm on their property. That's according to the school's principal. And a historic new deal for women's college sports. Brian Clark gives us the details.
ESPN is going to pay the NCAA $920 million to broadcast 40 of its championships over 8 years. The centerpiece, the women's basketball tournament that saw record ratings last year. NCAA President Charlie Baker told the AP its media consultant estimated more than half of the deal's annual value is tied to the Women's March Madness tournament. That average annual value is up by more than 300% compared to the last deal. ESPN and ABC are both owned by the Walt Disney Company.
And that is the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
It is the Matt Murphy Radio Show. Hour number 3 starts right now, this Thursday edition. Thank you for being out there. Episode 484 in progress. It's been a pretty good one, if I do say so myself. Senate Majority Leader Jack Johnson joining us in the first hour of the show. Dr. Carol Swain joining us in hour number 2. 2499 writes, the conversation with Dr. Carol Swain was amazing. I sincerely hope this interview will be posted on your site. It will, if I have anything to do with it. I take that back. It will, and I don't have anything to do with it. Bell K has everything to do with it, and he'll post it.
301.
Yeah, 301 this afternoon. So many people who are at their workplaces don't have an opportunity to listen. Thanks for the consideration of your show. Well, thank you, 2499, and we will most certainly take care of business when it comes to getting that posted just after the show concludes, right around 3 o'clock. That's less than an hour from now. The issue involving this judge out of Nevada, we better begin taking a hardline approach on criminals within the criminal justice system, because the soft approach does not seem to be working. we are regularly told that violence is down in this country. Does it feel that way? We are, maybe it is just that it's in our face. I try not to make presuppositions that turn out to be wrong. It is an occupational hazard in my line of work. Is it perhaps that this is more in our face? Let me explain what I mean. If you look at criminal data, crime is down. If you look at criminal data, violent crime is down from its zenith in the 1990s to today. But we regularly hear about the weekend murders that happen. We regularly hear about in Chicago, Illinois, and around the other parts of the country. And we see with regularity these acts of extreme violence on closed-circuit television, on security camera footage, Ring doorbell cameras, video footage from courtrooms such as the one that we've just seen in Nevada. Is it that crime is down because of a lack of willingness to prosecute the crime? Give you an example. A recent report posted by the Tennessee Star found that more than 30,000 Tennesseans left Memphis between 2017 and 2022. In the meantime, Nashville's growing by leaps and bounds. Will Nashville continue to grow if DA Glenn Funk continues his soft-on-crime approach? And I think that's what he has. Not nearly the soft-on-crime approach that you see in Memphis, which has led to the degradation of population there. According to people that are leaving, not according to me, according to those that are leaving, they are telling the city of Memphis, I am leaving because of the crime. The exodus coincides with a years-long struggle with crime that has subsisted despite repeated attempts to do something about it from state and federal government. According to the article at hand by Tom Pappert of the Tennessee Star, the 2023 study of population decline in the United States of America and our cities found that Memphis declined from 652,231 residents in 2017 to 621,050 residents in 2022, marking an almost 5% decrease in the city's population. Memphis had the 27th worst decline in population in the United States of America. Over the same time period, every other Tennessee city that was tracked by the report gained population. Nashville experienced a 2.65% growth in population, with the number of citizens in the city increasing from 655 or almost 666,000 to 683,000. Chattanooga saw a similar increase. The metro region saw a similar increase. Fastest growing city tracked for the report was Murfreesboro, which grew by almost 20% from 136,000 some odd residents to 162,000 some odd residents. Clarksville was the second fastest growing city with a population increase of 15%. Knoxville grew by 4.55%. Crime was up statistically by almost 10% last year in Shelby County. Now, state officials can only do so much. Last year, Governor Bill Lee ordered a surge of up to 60 additional highway patrol troopers to begin patrolling state highways and roads in and around Shelby County. The governor said that there will be stationed for the foreseeable future after he received a letter from State Senator Brent Taylor warning that the city was under siege. The DOJ offered a new suite of resources for Memphis law enforcement and prosecutors. Memphis, meantime, had its first recorded murder of 2024. Guess when that was, Bell? First murder of 2024.
Just after midnight on the 1st.
I don't know what time it was, but it was on January 1st. New mayor has been inaugurated as the mayor of that city, Paul Young. Young acknowledged, quote, We certainly want to make sure the Memphis Police Department is strong. They're doing all the things they need to do. He said that bringing down Memphis crime will involve prevention and interaction and intervention activity. I think it takes a heavy-handed approach. Jason writes in and says, Bill Lee, if he really wants to see crime, you know what? And I've heard this before, that if we really wanted to see crime in the state of Tennessee plummet from a statistical standpoint, the easiest way to do that would be to sell Memphis to either Arkansas or Mississippi. Sadly, Arkansas and Mississippi don't want Memphis. Even if we include the Peabody Hotel, Rendezvous, and Graceland, they still don't want Memphis. What frustrates the hell out of me is I've been to Memphis. And there are parts of that city that are so wonderful. The arcade downtown. What a great, an absolute institution. A great old school dining experience. Obviously, Graceland. Obviously, the Peabody and the Ducks. And
just being on the Mississippi, too.
Beale Street.
Yeah.
And the backbone of the blues. So much going for it. 8335 says giving Memphis to Arkansas would improve both states. I've been to Little Rock, too. Talk about the butthole of America. Little Rock, Arkansas, man. I had a job. Did I ever tell you about the job offer I had in Little Rock?
No, but when I did worker promotion, that was in my territory, so I can relate to what you're about to tell me.
Am I right? Is my analysis off the mark that I just called Little Rock, Arkansas, the butthole of America?
If it's not, you're going to have a hard time convincing me what the city that actually is would be.
I wanted to move because I was in a bad way in my job. I was stuck in an AM wasteland for a minute. This is about 10 years ago. I wanted to go. I wanted to find a reason to like a Little Rock. Have you ever been to that where you're looking for a reason to like a place? When the best thing that Little Rock has going for it is the crap hole trailer that they call the Bill Clinton Presidential Library?
This is a true story. When I was traveling one time, I could not I was like, I don't know where I am. I've been on the road so much, I'd forgotten what city I was in. And I called my travel agent, and I'm like, Rebecca, where am I today? She goes, well, if you didn't change anything, you should be in Little Rock. And I went, sorry, I asked. Hung up.
Well, Little Rock's pretty bad, but Memphis is worse. California and New York City, yeah, maybe so. I don't want to besmirch the good people of Arkansas by characterizing all of their state as Little Rock. If you think Little Rock is bad, go to Cairo, Illinois. Well, there's some pretty bad places around the country. You're right. Bottom line is this. Crime is a problem, as much as liberals want to pretend it's not, because they have a soft on crime approach. This did not start in the summer of 2020, but the summer of 2020 certainly exacerbated this idea that if you just let people have room to destroy. What was that? The Baltimore mayor, I forget her name. I want to say last name Franklin, but I could be wrong there. Shirley Franklin? Is that right? No, that's probably wrong. We need to give them room to destroy. Well, we have. Mayor Rudy Giuliani, as much besmirched as he has been over the last several years, he had it right. That if you take the little things seriously, then you obviously have less of those and less of the bigger crimes. All of this is in reflection to this sad situation where an assailant, a suspect, a criminal defendant who was being sentenced in a case in Las Vegas, Nevada, went over the bench and started beating on the female judge in that courtroom. Eventually, he was subdued, and obviously he'll have new charges against him, and obviously he's going to jail, hopefully, for a long time. This is not by happenstance that we're seeing it all across the country, and that leads me back to the election of district attorneys. I think a lot of this would be solved by eliminating election of district attorneys and making individuals who are elected mayor or more prominent officials within any given community responsible for the appointment of district attorneys.
When the judge is predisposed to send you to jail for committing assault and battery, when you assault the judge, that's probably not going to bode well for the results, the sentence in that trial.
Yeah, I mean, right. I mean, hey, I think that you have been found guilty enough. As I look at your rap sheet here, I see that you have been found guilty of violent crime in the past, and you've been allowed probation in an effort to help you see the error of your ways. Obviously, this is not working. So as a judge in this case, I'm not sentencing you to probation. You're going to need to do a little jail time. They start beating on the woman. And what do you think is going to happen to you now?
Oh, I've changed my mind.
Oh,
what do you know?
Well, look at me. How wrong was I? How unable are you to control your emotions? I mean, that's what's frightening to me. I understand that whatever kind of animal you are, you don't want to go to jail. How ridiculously unable are you to control your emotions?
Yeah, what part of your brain told you this was going to benefit you?
Well, you're not thinking like a rational human being.
Not even close. You're only going to make your situation worse. You're mad about this, you're angry, but you're going to do something to intensify the punishment.
Makes zero sense. 218 Super Talk 99.7 WTN Matt Murphy Show. Would love to hear from you. 615-737-9986. I made a promise to myself and to you that I would get to the issue of minimum wage, a subject that I've wanted to get onto here for the last few days. We'll do that in a moment. We'll also talk with a redheaded stranger about an event that's happening this coming Tuesday at the Tennessee State Capitol. That would be the one and only Pamela Fur, and that's coming up as well. Your telephone calls, 615-737-9986, and your text. Maybe the next judge will think twice about sending them to jail, right? That's what 95.95. Oh, boy, I'll think twice now. You've taught me the error of my ways. What an absolute idiot. Back in a moment.
A shooting at a school in Iowa and a Nashville firefighter charged in trouble with the law. We'll tell you what for. 2:30 Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you much, Mr. Morey. Stephanie Rawlings was the former mayor of Baltimore that I was trying to think of, that during the summer of 2020, in the aftermath of the George Floyd death, that was ultimately laid at the feet of Derek Chauvin, despite the fact that George Floyd had a lot of drugs in his system at the time that probably contributed to his death. Obviously, Derek Chauvin did a lot of things wrong there. Keeping his knee on his neck for 9.5 minutes was one of them. But in the aftermath of the violence that ensued, Stephanie Rawlings, the mayor of Baltimore, indicated that we need to give some of the residents in the city of Baltimore the space to destroy. You know, just burn off a little steam. Also burn down local businesses and residences. You know, no big deal. How's that working out for Baltimore? Talk about crap holes. I've been to Baltimore. I've seen it. David is in the borough with a thought on crime. Hey, David, thank you for calling. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good, man. How you doing, buddy?
I'm well, man. What's on your mind?
Well, this crime thing, you know, New York. I've been in New York, and that's the biggest crap hole I think I've ever been in. Been there one time, and I won't never go back. And this was years ago. This is back in '89, I reckon. And all I saw was trash on the side of the highway, cars. It was up on blocks, stripped down and burnt. I think we need. You remember the old movie Escape from New York?
Oh, I do. Kurt Russell was in that, I believe.
Yeah. I think we need to do that twice. I think we need to do one in New York and one in California. And just send them all to them 2 states, fence them in. I think we'll be good to go.
Hey, David, watch out for that truck. It's going to run you over.
Yeah. He tries to, but I'm bigger than he is. So.
Well, yeah, I think they had an escape from L.A. Look, a lot of people are trying to escape from New York City. Now, New York State's a wonderful place. New York State is far more conservative than what one would think. I think most of us believe that New York City and New York State are kind of synonymous. It's not true. It's similar to what I've heard about Pennsylvania. You know, a lot of portions of the Northeast get a bad rap because of the major cities. And the major cities run by Democrats are crap holes and they're crime-ridden. But if you go to Pennsylvania is Philadelphia on one side, Pittsburgh on the other side, and Alabama in the middle. It is. So I don't give all of those places a bad rap, but New York City, it gets what it deserves. Now, David, I would suggest that you got there just because, or just before, I should say, some of that nastiness was cleaned up by Rudy Giuliani. He did a great job in the 1990s of cleaning up that city, of cleaning up Times Square, of cleaning up some of the other crime-ridden areas in Manhattan and beyond. And he made that city almost livable. I mean, you have to like big cities in order to even consider that, but New York's just like a big open door or outdoor mall with no public bathrooms. It's not for me. Brian is next up in Nashville. Hey, Brian, how are you?
Hey, man, what's up?
What's going on?
You're talking about some good topics today.
Thank you.
I comment on you. I got sidetracked, I think, with some of the people that called, or that guy that just called in about the cities. I think you call it like you see it, and I like that about you. Let's see. The crime that you were talking about, can't remember what you said earlier. I mean, there's a big case in Memphis right now of that Cleotha guy that killed the lady that was running.
Is that going on? Is that case going on right now?
No, it's not. He's trying to move it to Nashville so that he gets a fair trial. And the judge denied it, which I was kind of shocked by. I've got a nephew that's an attorney down there, and he used to be a public defender, which hurts my family terribly. But some of the stuff that they put up with, that it's not, like you say, it's not the place. There are good sections in those places. It's not the place, it's the people. And so they either are pluses or minuses in my book.
Well, I mean, obviously the people matter. The leadership matters. And in some of our cities, sadly, leadership has been elected with a promise that they're going to take, they don't necessarily call it this, Brian, but they're going to take a soft on crime approach to these things. They talk about community policing. They talk about, I mean, I had a conversation several years ago in the summer of 2020 with someone that fashioned themselves a leader of the BLM movement in Alabama. And this person sat in my studio and told me that we needed to disarm and disband the police. And I said, well, what are we going to do about crime? You'll have vigilantism. You'll have rampant crime. If I know that there are no consequences, if there are no police officers to monitor communities. And he said, oh, no, we'll have community policing. It's like, well, what do you mean community policing? Well, you'll have volunteers or even paid individuals that go through the communities and make sure that these communities are safe. I swear to you, I had this conversation with someone, by the way. And I said, well, how do we know who those people are? He said, well, they can wear uniforms or they can wear. That's what police are, you idiot. Completely oblivious. All cops are racist, I was told by this individual. I asked the question, what about the black cops? They're not black, they're blue. There's always an answer for something, right? I've been told that other parts of the country where I've not been are the same way, and they are. You see enough of the reports. I don't know if crime, circling back to the original point I was making, I don't know that crime is substantially worse than it has been at some points in our history. But we are reaching a high point, and I see the pendulum swinging back the other way. If we want to save our major American cities, if we want to save Memphis, and yes, Nashville, we will empower our police officers to do everything that they can to make sure that our communities are safe. We will give the benefit of the doubt to the police. No, this doesn't mean that they're allowed to run around carte blanche and do anything and everything they want exterior to the laws that they have sworn themselves to serve. Obviously, they're expected to work within the law. However, it's high time that we offer them an opportunity to take a firmer hand approach when it comes to lawbreakers who want to make life worse for us on the streets. Let me tell you something. If you want to destroy Nashville's economy, and by extension, if you want to destroy Tennessee's economy, let the same level of crime that is running rampant on the streets of Memphis get to Nashville. And it's coming, by the way. It's coming. You'll see an exodus of the tourism dollars that we've come to depend on to enjoy the government services that we currently enjoy. Without those dollars, what happens next? One of the reasons that I did not get very much heartburn about the new football stadium, and although it goes against my core libertarian beliefs to have any public money going to a facility like that, I also understand how the world works. And I understand that NFL franchises are in short supply, therefore the demand remains high, so the price is going to be pretty significant. Number two, there's a price to be paid amongst us for not having a state income tax. I'd like to live in a world where we don't have a state income tax and don't have to worry about these things, but we do. And we do. And I enjoy, frankly, a more volunteer sort of tax in the form of sales taxes. I'd love to have a national sales tax in the form of a fair tax. I've talked about it plenty on my show over the years. I'm a strong advocate of a national consumption tax to eliminate federal income taxes. I would love to see it. It's what we essentially have in the state of Tennessee. We have consumption taxes. You pay taxes the more you consume in this state. If you choose to go downtown and enjoy Broadway, as I have over the past several weeks with many family and friends coming into town, you're paying your fair share in taxes, and you're ensuring that you don't have to pay a state income tax. See crime go up, see tourism go down, and watch what happens then. Beware. It all hinges on our elected officials' willingness to make sure that the criminals don't run rampant in our city streets like they are in Memphis. 615-737-9986, 231 on Super Talk.
.231, I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. Right now, 45 degrees in Nashville. Weather forecast on the way. A school shooting this morning at Perry High School in Perry, Iowa. Officials saying they arrived 7 minutes after shots were reported and found multiple gunshot victims, at least 2 students and an administrator injured, possibly more. Here's Alex Pershayan in Iowa.
Dallas County Sheriff Adam Infante told us that officers were alerted around 7:37. This is just before class was supposed to begin about an active shooting situation here at Perry High School. It's a high school of about 570 students. They say that officers were on scene within 7 minutes, and immediately upon entering that building, they encountered victims that had been shot. The sheriff here was unsure of just how many victims that they have today.
The shooter died from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. He has been identified, not publicly yet. Today's the first day of the second semester there, and we'll have more information as they just got done with a press conference. Officials in Perry, Iowa did announce they will have another press conference later on this afternoon. Right now in Tennessee, News 2 says that a Nashville firefighter was charged with reckless endangerment after allegedly trying to fight a fire at a home in Rutherford County. The Rutherford County Fire Department was working on a house fire when Nashville Fire Department employee Jacob Wellbaum unlawfully took protective gear and breathing equipment from a Rutherford County fire engine. Wellbaum is still an active member of the team, but is not working with the public or making any emergency responses. His bond was set at $10,500. And that is the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Mac Maury, WTN News.
Hey, folks, it's Matt Murphy, and I want to talk to you about a podcast that I love and believe in. It's authored by Steve Abramowitz. It's the Mill Creek View Tennessee podcast. You hear me often talking about Steve and his work. He does great work, has incredible interviews, not just with political figures, although he does a lot of politics in the state of Tennessee, as you might expect, but he also talks to entertainers. He talks to country music singers from time to time. He talks to local artists. He talks to people of interest that will be of interest to you. I can promise you that. So I encourage you to go over to the Mill Creek View podcast. You might be asking, well, Murphy, how do I get there? Well, if you enjoy Deezer, iTunes, iHeart, Spotify, or any of your podcast apps, you just type in Mill Creek View and you'll find him. You can also find him on Rumble Video. And they're on a website. That's mcview.us. That's mcview.us. That is their newspaper, the Mill Creek View newspaper. I go there on a regular basis, and I encourage you to do it as well. It's Steve Abramowitz and Mill Creek View. Go to mcview.us. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I have an update. So AP, the Associated Press, a formerly respected organization, continues to beclown themselves. Bell, I mentioned yesterday they changed this headline without telling anyone. The headline originally was, Harvard president's resignation highlights new conservative weapon against colleges, plagiarism. Now, plagiarism has never been a weapon against. Plagiarism is against the rules that the colleges themselves place on themselves. This has nothing to do with conservatives. Well, they changed the headline from that. I just read it to you. Harvard's president's resignation highlights new conservative weapon against colleges, plagiarism. That was changed to plagiarism charges downed Harvard's president. A conservative attack helped to fan the flames. I also noted that they just rewrote history in the article in talking about how Christopher Rufo, who is an activist, a conservative activist, helped highlight the plagiarism. They said that Rufo celebrated her departure as a win in his campaign against elite institutions of higher education. On X, formerly Twitter, he wrote, scalped, as if gay was a trophy of violence, invoking, quoting now, a gruesome practice taken up by white colonists who sought to eradicate Native Americans. I can't even say it without laughing. They've now changed that line without telling anyone that they changed that line.
They get caught doing this a lot. I don't know who they think they're fooling.
Now, the new line, they're trying to keep the spirit of the old and add context with the new. But you're right, they're not fooling anybody. On X, formerly Twitter, he wrote scalped as if gay was a trophy of violence, invoking a gruesome practice taken up by white colonists who sought to eradicate Native Americans and also used by some tribes against their enemies.
You know, there's this thing called, it used to be a job position. It was called an editor. It's like they don't even have those anymore.
White folk brought scalping over here, and the Indians weren't doing any of that.
This looks like a good idea. Let's pick up on it.
Fun. What a joke. Absolute joke. What a clown show. Adding to this clown show right now is the redheaded stranger. Her name is Pamela Fur. She's no clown. Hello, Pamela Fur. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. So many people over the holiday, as I was subbing in for Brian last week, as I was doing my thing over the Christmas holiday, they wanted to know how you were doing. And so now we can officially ask you on these public airwaves, how's that knee?
Oh, I hear that I may have, I can't say drunk dialed. What would you say? High dialed? I don't know. Well, anyway. No, the knee it's brand spanking new. It's metal. I've got this big piece of metal now in my left leg, and it's, I don't know, I'm moving slowly. The pain has been excruciating. I'm not going to lie. You know, have you ever had a surgical procedure or something and you tell someone you're about to have it and they say, it's nothing. You'll be in and out of there in no time. No one has ever said that about knee replacement surgery. They're right. It's rough. It's tough. But I'm getting there. I drove for the first time today. So in 3 weeks? So, and that was challenging. Not going to lie. It was.
Well, we're thinking about you. So you get to drive when? When will you be cleared to get out and about on these city streets?
Here's the truth. As soon as I am able to stop taking oxycodone. Because you're not supposed to take that and drive. And now I know why. But when I drove this morning, I had not taken any. So we decided to see if I could, because you have to bend your knees, right, to get into a car.
Sure.
And behind the steering wheel. So we had to see if I could bend it far enough. So I do physical therapy 3 times a week. You can hear a lot of curse words coming out of that building 3 times a week at a certain time from Miss Pamela. And the swelling's been awful. My whole entire leg was black and blue. That's no joke. It was pretty severe. But I'm doing fine. Thank you for your prayers, and thank you, everybody, for thinking of me.
We have been thinking about you, and I'm sad to note this, but I feel like you should know it. regardless of what Belkay has told you, he informed me earlier today that he has deleted your OxyContin message that you left on his phone, and I can't tell you how disappointed I was because
Did
it was.
you hear it?
Yes, we heard it.
I went in and played it for him right after you left.
We played it for everybody. We walked around the entire building. Listen to Pamela. It was funny. It was not bad.
I have to be honest, I have no recollection of dialing.
I'm shocked. I'm stunned.
And looked. Oh, yeah. I went back and looked to see some phone calls because I had some others say, you called me as soon as you were out of surgery. And so, yeah, I have no idea what I said. No clue. At least I'm fun when I'm high.
Well, no, you're funny. I mean, it was good. I mean, that's what you said. I think the beginning of the message was something along the lines of, "Hey, Bill, you want to get high? You want to get high?" Well, I'm high. I'll tell you that. I'm high. Yeah, it was pretty good. It was pretty funny. No permanent reputation damaged in the course of that.
Okay. Whew, thank God. Hallelujah.
Well, I'm glad you're well. Now, your organization that obviously you're working with, of course, you're a family at Super Talk, but you're also with Americans for Prosperity. You've got a little something going on this coming Tuesday. Tell me about it.
Well, we do. So I'm actually officially back to work with AFP, although I'm doing a lot of work from home. And one of the things that we're doing, we are participating in what we call a Day on the Hill. So we want voters from all over the state of Tennessee to come to the Capitol on Tuesday because that is the first official day of the general session. I think you had Jack Johnson, State Senator Jack Johnson, on earlier today talking about the upcoming session. Well, we are going to be there, and we want people to show up in droves. I hate to quote Justin Jones, but we want you to show up and show out as conservatives, as libertarians, as conservatarians, as we call it at AFP. We want you to show up, and we're going to provide lunch there at the Legislative Lounge on Tuesday. And if you want to come with us, if you want to be a part of our gang, just give me a call or just reach out to me through social media, and we'll sign you up. We'll have a good number of people have already signed up. So anyway, I'd love for you guys to come with us on Tuesday. Lunch will be at 11:30, and then we'll break off and go speak to different lawmakers. There's several things we want to get passed. We want to have a state ban on a state property tax, so we want to get rid of that. We want to get rid of the con. I think I heard you talking about that earlier.
The certificate of need, right?
Yeah, and then we want to pass the governor's school choice program as well. Those are three of the big issues that we're involved in. And so this is an opportunity for you to actually see your lawmakers in action and tell them, hey, we're paying attention, we're watching, and we want these things done.
Wasn't there one more thing you were trying to get passed? It was that ban on cell phone use right after surgery, wasn't it?
From my understanding,
you knew something like that was
coming. I knew
coming.
that was coming. But AFP believes in freedom, so freedom to use your cell phone when you're high probably fits in that category.
Freedom of speech is not freedom from consequences, and sadly, Bell absolved you of much of the consequence by erasing that voicemail message. It's only in our memories now. So, real quick, one more time, time and where should people congregate, and how do people sign up? It's important that you sign up, right?
Yeah, it is important that you sign up so we know how many people to feed. And you can just, I'm going to give you my cell phone number. Believe it or not, my work cell phone number is 615-308-7013, 308-7013. Or you can reach out to me via social media, and I'll get you the right link. And we will have lunch probably around 11:30, and then go from there. So that's where it depends on where you're coming from. Will depend on where you congregate. We've got different places for different people. So just call that number or reach out to me via via social media, 615-308-7013.
A lot of people on the on our social media platforms and a lot of people on the super text line are wishing you the best personally, Pamela. I want you to know that. There's too many to mention by name or too many to mention per text, but a lot of folks are inundating the super text line. They're thinking about you, so know that. And 4209 specifically has written in and said, if Dollar Store Reba needs anything from the dollar store, do not send to Dan Mandis.
You'll steal it all first.
That's right. Pamela, thank you. I can't wait to see you again. Take care.
All right. Talk to you soon.
All right.
Bye.
See you later. There's Pamela Fur.
I am pretty sure that is the first time in history that she gave her cell phone number out on the radio intentionally. Even though she has done it many times in the past.
And yet I'm guilty of that too. You do these things by rote, and if you're not thinking about giving the telephone number on the radio, you can easily give your telephone number from your cell, and I've done so too. Mine starts with a 205, though, so it's easy to catch. If I start saying 205, then I know that I'm doing something wrong.
Yeah, you screwed something up somewhere.
If you don't know the reference that the super texter made, that's an all-day listener right now because they've been listening to Mandis in the morning. Dan Mandis admitted to accidentally stealing a pack of gum from Dollar General and not returning it or not going back to pay for it. I don't blame him. I would have done the same thing. I perhaps would have offered an additional $1 or $2 at the time of my next purchase. But Dan was cajoled and he had enough finger wagging at him over the issue that this morning he announced that he was taking back the pack of gum to the Dollar General. To which my question was, how long has this event been? I mean, you still got the gum? It's very odd. Did I tell the story of, real quick, I'll tell the quick story. I did a bit of a social experiment. I told this to Chris Hand the other day, that I'm a Sam's Club member. And, you know, you don't have bags at Sam's Club. And I do the self-checkout on my phone. And this was years ago in Birmingham, Alabama. I accidentally stole a book. The book was in the buggy. I was beeping everything with my phone. Beep, 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 beep. Walked out the thing, showed them my electronic receipt. They scanned that, scanned a couple of items. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. And off I go. I get home and I see the book. And I'm looking over the receipt, and I realize I didn't scan the book. It's about a $20 book. And it occurred to me that maybe this happens with regularity. So I went back. The next time I was at the Sam's Club, what my plan was originally was to take the book back with me and pay for it. I took the book back with me, left it in the truck. I went in, had a list. This was all pre-planned in my head. I went through, got the items that I needed to get. I was getting eggs, and the eggs were at the top of the cart. So I scanned all of my items. I intentionally did not scan the eggs. And I went through, and they checked me out and said, "Thank you, sir. Have a nice day." And I went on my way. I immediately went out the exit. I went back into the entryway. I went to customer service, and I said, "Hey, here's my electronic receipt on my phone. I think I forgot to pay for my eggs." And the woman rang up the eggs, and she paid. And I said, "Is this something that happened?" She said, "Yes, all the time."
Built into the price.
It's built into the experience. I said, "What?" She said, "We have found that if it is a purchase under $20, we just let it go." And I said, "Well, I accidentally took a book. The reason that I did all of this," and I explained to her what I did. I said, "I accidentally took a book a few weeks ago. It's in my truck. Can I pay you for it?" And she said, "No, don't worry about it." I said, "No, seriously, I'll pay you for it." She said, "No, don't worry about it." Amazing how much our society depends on the goodness of other people.
And now you go back weekly and still $20 from Costco.
Hey, you know, got to get mine. It's $2.51 on Super Talk. At least I'm not stealing guns. You know what I'm saying? Or gum, for that matter. Hey, speaking of guns, the world-famous Glock store wants to talk with you. Come on now. It's 2024. It's time to get trained up in your gun shooting experience. And you need to do this with the world-famous Glock store and the incredible shooting rooms. Not lanes, shooting rooms. They've got them at the world-famous Glock store. Let's talk about it. Friends, they've got incredible promotions on their range for the new year, and Happy New Year to all of you. I need to tell you that these rooms are incredible. Shoot 270, the reason they call it Shoot 270 is you can shoot at 270 degrees. That's almost a full circle. All January, if you mention WTN, you get incredible discounts. All range sessions are half off. Free gun rentals with your paid range session. And then third, they'll double whatever you paid for your session and apply it to a Shoot 270 range membership. That is the world-famous McGill's Glock store. They want you to train up. They want you in their range at the Shoot 270 indoor ranges, minutes from the airport and worth the drive from anywhere. Friends, it's not enough to own a gun. You need to know how to use a gun safely, securely, and effectively. And you can find that out at the world-famous Glock store. January is training month at McGill's world-famous Glock store. Go to shoot270.com for more info. That's shoot270.com. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. It is the Matt Murphy portion of the broadcast day, but very swiftly we're moving to Brian Wilson and The Drive. What a great and compelling conversation Brian had yesterday with Congressman Mark Green regarding his experience at the southern border. It is the number one issue leading into 2024 from a national perspective. Obviously, we've got a lot of things going on from a state and local perspective, but all of it has to do with crime and punishment and our ability to navigate this in the state of Tennessee. We're all border states at this stage. So I say to Brian Wilson of The Drive, what a great job. What a great conversation you had with Congressman Mark Green yesterday.
Well,
Brian.
thank you very much. It was fun to hear from down at the border. And what I thought was interesting is that, they got there and, there have been 6,000 people coming across the river every day forever. And they get there, and nobody's coming across the river. and I asked him, I said, what happened? Did the Biden administration just clean it up? He said, no, we really think the cartels knew that we were going to be there and decided they would deny us the picture of all of the chaos on the border. That's how sophisticated these cartels are. They understand that they have to play a public relations game as well. I thought that was fascinating.
That is fascinating. That they are in tune and engaged with what we are doing and what our politicians are doing. I think it's one of the reasons they become so emboldened. And, and I've read the stories, and I'm sure you've seen them as well, that you pay different amounts of money if you want to get caught or if you don't want to get caught by Border Patrol, right?
And there's a whole game to it. Early in the morning, if you want to have a contact with the Border Patrol, they wade you across in some place where they know the Border Patrol will be waiting. And then when the Border Patrol gets completely overwhelmed there, in a more remote location, they bring the other group across, and these are the people who have paid more not to have a contact with the Border Patrol or law enforcement. And you pay an extra charge for that. Well, why would you pay that extra charge? I mean, what are you hiding? Because everybody else, if you got nothing to hide, you're down here just picking up your piece of paper from the Border Patrol and going to America. But the people who are sneaking across have something to hide. And I think by and large, they're the very bad people. And that's also where they bring across a lot of the fentanyl and other stuff.
Yeah, you feel like those guys that don't want contact with the Border Patrol, those are the super bad guys that we need to be seriously worried about doing bad things to our country. We don't predict it, but you worry about it because, I mean, I don't know how you feel about it. I have to feel like the American people have gotten so wise to what's going on. They're going to respond forcefully in 2024.
I believe you're right. And when you look at what people are concerned about in the public relation and the public polls, it really is number one, economy, how their life is existing in the Bidenomic economy.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other thing, number two, always on the list, is this chaos down on the border. They don't like it, and they know exactly who's responsible for it. So I think that they're going to speak very loudly in this coming election.
I want to know what your takeaway is on the Epstein list so far. I mean, I've made my position known throughout the course of my portion of the day today, but I'm curious where you are, because I think we're all looking for something. I just look for convictions. I just look for anybody engaged in this sort of disgusting criminal behavior. I want them to be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law.
Yeah, I do too. And the list that came, it never really was a list. We got somehow sort of focused on this. Well, there's going to be a list, the client list.
Right.
It really never was that. I mean, and we just sort of have to understand that this was a court document in which a lot of people were listed as John or Jane Doe, and number 36 was Bill Clinton. And so what they've done is they've unmasked who the John and Jane Does are. And when you read through the document and you now put the names in place, what you find is a lot of the prominent names, really weren't, according to the court documents, they weren't involved in any inappropriate behavior. There were some. I mean, Bill Clinton, the most damning thing that was said about him is that somebody said that Clinton liked his girls young. Well, ask Monica Lewinsky. I think she can verify that.
Right.
So that wasn't a huge surprise, but did they actually have an incident where he was involved with an underage girl? And it's not alleged in the document. But there was 1,000 pages of stuff, and there's a whole nother document dump coming today. So, who knows what's going to be in some of these documents, but it's going to be a slow drip, drip, drip. And I haven't seen anything that sets the world on fire here. We knew about, Clinton's proclivities. We knew about Prince Andrew.
Right.
Not a big surprise there. Some of the other names that are mentioned are people who, that they're incidentally there. But again, they go out of their way to say, but no, I was not involved in any inappropriate contact. So so far, for the people whose names have been connected, it hasn't been a horrible experience.
What else is happening on the drive this afternoon, Brian Wilson?
Well, I'm going to start out with some 2024 news and how Nikki Haley has stepped in it in a big way in her comments about the people of Iowa. Seems like it's something you would try to avoid if you want the people in Iowa to vote for you. So we're going to talk about that. But I got to tell you, my favorite story is there's a 100-year-old veteran who credits his longevity to his daily Dr. Pepper. And this is all I need, ladies and gentlemen. This verifies that I am doing the right thing every day.
Confirmation bias at its best on the drive with Brian Wilson this afternoon. I can't wait for that. There's Brian Wilson. He's coming up in mere moments right after Mac Murray's newscast, and that's coming up in seconds. We'll be back tomorrow at high noon for another edition of the Matt Murphy Show. Enjoy the drive on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Have a great day, folks. So long.